What in the honey nut fuck was that? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast, and happy Monday to all of my degenerate gamblers and MMA fight fans out there. I am coming off getting reverse swept last week. And if you're new to the show or you're teetering on whether or not to watch this thing, please don't disconnect the video after hearing that. I promise you, we're only going up from here. But my Lord, I got my ass handed to me on a silver platter at UFC Vegas 107. I called that I felt like it was going to be a good night for some underdogs, and I felt like we were going to sprinkle a couple of shots, and I just picked all the wrong ones. Underdogs were absolutely barking, just not the ones I put my hard-earned money on. And on top of that, it all comes down to my damn decision making. Guys, I got a screw loose. Y'all know this. You guys love me, even though I've got a screw loose. That's why you're here. But I was literally staring. I went, okay. I'm parlaying Jordan Leavitt this week. I am parlaying Jordan Leavitt. And I went, Rayani Dos Santos or Dustin Jacoby? For the other side of that parlay leg. And I'm going to leave the other one. Of course, I picked Rayani Dos Santos. And she got her ass whooped all up and down that cage for 15 straight minutes. And then, of course, Dustin Jacoby comes out and just ices this bum in less than 2 minutes. I felt incredibly stupid after that one, especially considering how many sharp friends of mine took the Elise Ardeline side of things. I wasn't about to put my money on a TikTok star, but I still shouldn't have been laying favorite money with Rayani freaking Dos Santos. I will tell you, I'm proud of myself for passing on the Joao Filo and Alan Nascimento fight, because I don't think there was a good bet to be had on that fight. I think it was a dog or pass spot, and Joao Filo fought his ass off. He was obviously the more polished fighter. He was obviously the more violent fighter and was closer to winning that fight than anybody. And Alan Nascimento only got his game going because he took advantage of a tiny little error made by Joao Filo. Shouldn't have been the favorite, right? Like, so if you reline that fight, you probably flip the line backwards. It's still close, but you give Filo the credit for being the better of the two guys. Alan Nascimento is a weasel, though. And so, like, good pass not to be on that fight, in my opinion, even though I ended up picking Alan to win. And then let's talk just for 2 seconds about Dusko Todorovic and Zach Reese. First and foremost, I will never change my tune on Zach Reese. He is a bum. He will always be a bum. He's not going to last in the UFC very much longer. And I'm sad because I deserved that win. After I lost my dog of the week, I upgraded Dusko Todorovic to being my dog of the week, and I deserved that plus 200. We beat the line move by a mile. He won rounds 1 and round 3 very clearly. Round 3 was close enough that I can't call it a robbery. There's a difference between losing a close fight and being robbed blind. I think the judges got the decision wrong, but it was close enough I can't call it a robbery. You guys know I will stand on principle for that, even when I'm on the wrong side of it. But if Dusko had literally just thrown like 4 more punches, it's blatantly obvious that he wins round 3. It was because he was low volume. He still did the damage, though. He busted Zach Reese's face up and made Zach turn into a wrestler in round 3. I can't believe I didn't get paid for that bet. And then, you know what? As much as I'll pat myself on the back for passing on the Filo and Nascimento side, I've got to just rake my own balls over the hot coals here for putting my money on Ketlen Vieira and Macy Chiasson. I ended up betting Macy. I said this was going to be a close fight. I said this had split decision written all over it. It's a low-level women's MMA fight, so I'm picking Macy, but I'm not putting my money on it. Then all the stuff comes out about the weight miss and the hospital, and Ketlen Vieira looks like shit on the scales, and I'm like, oh, I got to go. I gotta go. Like, I'm fading a woman who was in the hospital 2 days ago. How do I not bet the fighter at Pick'em that I thought was gonna? No, it was one-sided. I don't know if there's truth to the hospital thing at this point. I feel like that might have been made up. And Macy, frankly, showed negative fight IQ in that match. She was on her back for all of round 2. 5 seconds into round 3, dives in for a takedown and ends up on her back again. Like, you're losing in the grappling. Why is that where you're going in the 3rd round of a fight where you need to win? So just brutal, awful result there. I had made up my mind last week before the Monday show that I was just going to pass on that fight, and then I talked myself into a bet. That's my own freaking fault for losing that one and getting my hand caught in the cookie jar. And then the biggest disappointment of the entire night. I told you guys Billy Ray Goff should not have been that big of a favorite. I told you guys Ramiz Brahimaj had high upside. I told you guys that I was going to put my money on Ramiz. It was just a matter of when. And then the line moved so hard on Billy Ray Goff that I was like, I'm missing something. I even wore my Trust Your Balls t-shirt last week, and I didn't trust my balls. I could have absolutely waited and sniped that line at its pinnacle at the end of the week and cashed massively, and it would have turned my entire night around if I had just trusted my own read on Ramiz Brahimaj in that spot. And I'll never get that opportunity ever again. I am incredibly disappointed with myself. Not only that, but then in the co-main event, which became the main event because it was such a shit show of a card, we actually lost the main event of the evening. If you guys recall, made the argument for a 145-pound fighter moving up on short notice to face Ludovic Klein just a couple of months ago. And somehow went from arguing for AJ Cunningham to be live against Ludovic Klein to betting on Klein against Mateus Gamrot. I joined Narco Cop on his Saturday spaces on Twitter, and we talked about this one, and I told him, I was like, honestly, Narco, like, of all the fights on this card, I'm getting cold feet. Like, I don't understand what happened. That, like, the situation was becoming clear to me that I was like, I don't like my Ludovic Klein bet anymore. I was like, I've already got the action in. I already talked about it twice. I can't, like, do anything about it. So I couldn't cash out on you guys or anything like that the morning of the fight. So I just rode with it. But fuck me. Like, by the time the fight came around, I was just 1,000% certain that I was wrong on Ludovic Klein before he even stepped foot in the cage. And it's too late by fight day because my conscience won't allow me to cash out that late because I've done a week's worth of content talking about being on a side. And if I then hit the cash out button right before the fight starts and leave all you guys who may have listened to me and got convinced by me hanging, I can't stomach that shit. So I rode with it. He got his ass whooped. And anybody who bet on Mateus Gamrot, like, just congratulations to you guys. That was the easiest money there has been besides Bexat in 2025. Like, there's been no easier money this year than those two spots. So congratulations to all the Gamrot backers. Prayers up for Macy Barber. Hope she's okay. Obviously dealing with some physical stuff really that could be a problem and could be a career-ending type situation. But frankly, she probably saved me even more money because if she was in that kind of a state coming out to fight Aaron Blanchfield, I had money on Macy Barber. So I probably saved some money with the fight being canceled. So thank God for that. But, obviously hope she makes a quick recovery. And with that, I will stop lamenting because we've got an awesome pay-per-view card to talk about, and I've got a chat to welcome in. We've got over 200 of you guys already in here live, so do me a favor, hit the like button, get subscribed if you haven't already. We got my guy Dream in the house. C. Dell, what is up? I love to see you guys in there. I will address those as we get to the fights, obviously, guys. Dixon Sider, my guy. Ethan Hershey, and you know the deal, Ethan. You let me know. I owe you a shot bet because our fight got canceled last week. We can get after it. Johnny in the house. Rem, dog, what is up? My man Dan from Half the Battle. You guys will be seeing and hearing from him very soon. What's going on, Louis Mac Jr., Iceland, Farts, Annoyed, Squidward, Meatball, Air Dog, Joe Bird, the MMA Upside. Everybody's here. Everybody, including my man Aaron from Free UFC Bet Picks, joining us on the show to break down this pay-per-view card. What's going on, my man?
Glad to be here. Really looking forward to this card. It's going to be like a real breath of fresh air after last week for sure.
Yep, it definitely will be, man. I got to tell you, I told everybody last week was my kind of card, right? We go dumpster diving, and then I got in there and I was like, damn, this dumpster's got hands, man. Like, I'm ready for a pay-per-view. I'm ready to parlay some chalk. Give me the 4-5 leg even money parlay at this point. Let's go. How'd you do last week?
I got wrecked. I had Jordan Leavitt fight to start round 2 or round 3, and like everything, not like half of stuff. The other half I had Ryan Dos Santos.
Glad it wasn't just me. Can I just say glad it wasn't just me. I thought we were gold fading a TikTok star.
Yeah. And you say the best base in MMA is training with Merab, and Ramiz continues to prove you right. Well, I think the best base in MMA is being less attractive than the opponent. And I went against my own rule. In my opinion, should have been on Alice for sure.
Yep. I'm with you, man. You know what? Can we just for 2 seconds? I've got to give Elise Ardelion, or however you pronounce it. I have to give her flowers here. Absolutely have to, because she went full like Jake Paul for this fight. Like she was getting laughed out of the UFC, but it looks like she put some serious work in. Her hands looked better and faster than I've ever seen them. She looked way stronger physically than I've ever seen her. I think she got some new supplementation mixed in there, because when Rayani Dos Santos like went in for takedowns, it was like crashing into a brick wall. Like she had no option whatsoever. As soon as they clinched up, you could see she was clearing away physically, not able to work with this chick. So I really feel like Elise Ardelion put some work in between these fight camps. And granted, Rayani Dos Santos is not very good, but still, like we'd have to go ahead and admit that like she's making strides. So congrats to all the plus 200 backers that did get in on that dog line there.
For sure, she looked very much improved. I thought Hayani had far better striking and far better striking defense, and on Saturday that was not the case by any means. So I'm also glad that they got fight of the night. Typically, it doesn't matter how much of a barn burner you are, and like the opening couple fights of the night, it's really hard for Dana to remember that 5 hours later and give them a fight of the night bonus.
Yep.
They tend to get awarded to the main card fighters, so I thought that was kind of cool because they deserved it.
It speaks to just how bad the card was.
That's true. Yeah, only nine fights to pick from. One of the worst things was I do these incredibly extensive write-ups with all the links to fight tape. ESPN Plus has been pulling all the fights, so I'm swapping out ESPN links with past links. A whopping 8 write-ups got canceled last week from Jeremiah Wells, Miles, Gustafsson, the main event. I can't even remember them all. Yeah, wild card. A lot of people thought that Gamrot versus Klein should be the main event, and it turned out to be exactly that.
Turned out it was. Yeah, for those of you guys know, as you guys know, right? Like I'm an entertainer. I bring smarter people than me on the show. We try to give you guys all the information we can so you can make good bets on these MMA cards. So a lot of you guys get saved the time and the effort of tape study that we go through to go ahead and bring you the information that you need, right? So you guys don't understand just how painful it is right now with the UFC trying to negotiate whether they're going to end up back on ESPN Plus, whether they're going somewhere else. We don't know yet. But right now, because of those negotiations, all the fights that were normally on ESPN Plus have been pulled. So we now have to find alternative sources to get to the fights that we used to just be able to point and click our way straight to and do our tape study. So it is a brutal war right now for us content creators and podcasters and anybody bringing you this kind of info. Give us a little bit of a grain of salt at the moment, because we're out of our depth here at the moment. Rimdog, I was just going to talk about that. Justice for Dustin Jacoby. How on this shit trash can of a card did he not get a bonus? The man iced Bruno Lopez in under 2 minutes. It was the only knockout, I think, on the entire card. We had Zach Reese dragging Dusko's freaking carcass around the canvas for 15 minutes. Instead, we got an awesome submission from, Jordan Leavitt. Like, don't get me wrong. Like we talked about, the best back and forth fight on the entire card was Rayane Dos Santos and Elise Ardeline. How do you not give the one shiny knockout of the entire night and on a normal card? On a normal card, it was still could have been one of the better knockouts. That was incredible. Justice. I demand justice because Dustin Jacoby absolutely deserved a $50K bonus.
Could you pull up Eric Cote's comment and we'll close the loop on this ESPN thing, and I'll give all these lovely viewers who are here supporting the hack. You're all going to like this. You're going to be grateful. For the folks that do like to watch tape and you don't want to wait 6 or 11 months for the fight to come out on Fight Pass, I assume Eric Cote might live in Canada, like Patrick Cote. In Canada, you get those fights immediately. In America, we have to wait either 6 or 11 months for them to appear on Fight Pass. You can get yourself a VPN. Get yourself a VPN. Say you live in Canada, and Fight Pass magically works immediately for you. Hope you tape watchers appreciate that.
America sucks, man. Oh, my Lord.
One more reason. Add another reason. Gosh darn ESPN Plus.
Hey, Slimmy Jimmy saying, cashed me the Ramirez by sub. Let's freaking go. Love to hear that. See, and that's right there, you guys. That right there. I got reverse swept last week. I made no money. I donated to my bookie's college fund, right? Like, I didn't win anything. But the point of this show is to make you laugh, bring you some entertainment, talk about your favorite sport, and hopefully give you what you need so you can make a good bet. That's why I do this shit. So, Slimmy Jimmy, congratulations, and I am glad to hear that you made money on that, because I should have been in there with you. All right, guys, let's get it moving. We've got UFC 316 to go ahead and break down and talk about. We've got over 300 people watching us live across all the different platforms. So you guys, if you're on another platform, please come over to my YouTube channel and get subscribed. Please share the show no matter what platform you happen to be watching on. Text your grandma, let her know that we are live. And then make sure you're following my guy, Free UFC Bet Picks. His main home is on Instagram, but he does have the other social media platforms, and he's one of the nicest guys in the entire game, on top of being one of the sharpest. So he is exactly the kind of person that we like to bring on the show and we like to support, because he knows his shit and he's not a dick. So let's get into this card. First fight of the night. We've got a space filler here. Khaos Williams takes on Andreas Gustafsson. And if you guys are like, man, I've never seen Andreas Gustafsson fight, but I feel like I know that name, that's because we talked about him last week, you guys. My dog of the week, my leap off the page, first bet I pulled the trigger on last week was Trevin Giles. Yes, you heard that right. Gustafsson was supposed to fight Trevin Giles. According to Gustafsson, Trevin passed out cutting weight and smacked his head in the sauna or something like that. So that's the reason the fight got canceled last week, is because Trevin, hopefully he's okay, right? Like, that kind of stuff happens. If you're cutting weight too quickly, he took the fight on short notice, so he may have strained himself. And if he hit his head, of course, that's not a good thing for a professional MMA fighter. So hopefully the UFC took care of him, financially speaking, for trying to fill in. And then hopefully he heals up and he's okay and it's not long-term damage or anything like that. But Khaos, similarly, had not one, but two opponents fall out on him. And so he needed an opponent. And the two of them were just kind of like, fuck it. Like, both of us need to fight. Both of us were supposed to fight. Let's get in there and let's just go ahead and fight each other. So now we've got this random mix-up of these two guys here. And you guys know I am a Khaos Williams truther. I'm a Khaos Williams believer. I love this guy. I like his death touch. I like his approach to fighting. The problem is, I think I have overestimated him just a little bit as far as his overall skill set is concerned. And I'm kind of realizing that the deeper he goes into his UFC run. I actually took him against Gabriel Bonfim as an underdog, just thinking he would be able to shuck 1 or 2 takedowns and then find the button. Because the Bonfim bros, notorious for being a little bit chinny, notorious for being clipped you know, that kind of thing. So notorious for quitting. Let's throw that one out there too. So I really wanted him against Gabriel Bonfim. Bonfim took this man down with ease. Like, that's the part that got me. I was not expecting the jiu-jitsu guy to be able to take down Khaos Williams, how quickly and how easily he was able to. I knew the submission threat was there once it hit the ground, but I thought it was going to be kept standing for more of the fight. So concern, right? But on the feet, Khaos has got a good, solid game. It's very power-based. It's one-hitter-quitter type of shots, and that backs a lot of people off and sets up a lot of people to not come in and get too busy with him because of the power coming back at them, the way he iced a guy like Carlston Harris. Like, you just can't mess around with the nuclear missiles that Khaos Williams has in his hands. His opponent here, Andreas Gustafsson, you guys, I simply do not believe is very good. I'm just going to outright say it, man. I don't think this guy is UFC level. I think he sucks. He's 11-2. He is 34 years old, which is way too old to be a prospect. And he's just now making his UFC debut off of Dana White's Contender Series. You guys know how I feel about Dana White's Contender Series fighters, especially old and busted ones. You look back at this guy's resume, and I talked about this last week when we were talking about Trevin Jones, right? Or Trevin Giles. You can't just look at a man's record. That's not the only thing that you can do. You got to go into the tape. You got to see what they're good at, etc. But this guy's been fighting bums. I mean, absolute bums on the regional scene. So him stepping into the UFC now is a massive, massive leap in competition. And he posted on social media that his game plan is to go full retard. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen Tropic Thunder, but you never go full. No, sorry, that's not Tropic Thunder. What is that? Yeah, it is Tropic Thunder. I got it right. Okay. So you never go full retard. Like, that's the line, right? So his game plan is to come out there and go full artard. I didn't think that was a good game plan against Trevin Giles. I think that's a worse game plan against Khaos Williams. So Khaos Williams is currently a minus 218, 220 favorite in this spot. But what is crazy to me, and this is where it gets weird, I'm not betting Khaos in this fight. I was happy to cannonball feet first on short notice, up a weight class, or not up a weight class, but short notice, out of shape Trevin Giles. But I am not betting Khaos Williams. The difference to me is stylistically speaking. Khaos Williams does not have a jab. Khaos Williams does not have footwork. Khaos apparently does not have good takedown defense. This man wants to pin you up against the fence. And just with all of his enhanced, they call him Bane. And I think there might be a reason for that. If you guys don't know your Batman comics, Bane had the mask on and he would just like hit the button and it would like juice him on the spot and he would get roided up and then go kill everybody. That's Bane's superpower, is steroids. This man calls himself Bane, and just look at him. Like, I think he's got the same superpower. So he wants to get you up against the fence. He wants to drag you to the mat. It's not overly technical. It's all force. It's all physical. It's all power. That's what he wants to do to Khaos. The thing is, Trevin Giles is more technical. Trevin Giles has a jab. He's got footwork. He can counter wrestle. He's got good jiu-jitsu. I thought the jab would keep the distance. I thought the counter wrestling would keep the fight standing. I thought the jiu-jitsu would win the scrambles. Those are all things I liked. And then I also enjoyed the plus money underdog price tag against a UFC debutant. I loved that spot. Khaos is heavy on his feet. He has brick hips. He is not a guy that's going to be able to defend takedowns the same way Trevin Giles would. He has no jab. He's going to load up on uppercuts and overhands and wing them as hard as he possibly can. If Andreas Gustafsson gasses out in this fight, he's a dead man. Like, as soon as he slows down, it's over. Khaos will nuke him and he will be face down on the canvas. But if he doesn't slow down, if he is controlling the grappling of this fight, I don't see where Khaos even has the opportunity to use that power. And I know Andreas is not a guy who goes to decision very often. He's a 80% finisher, but I actually think this is a fight that he can just drag someone like Khaos to decision by pinning him up against the cage, wearing him out, filling his arms up with blood, and then putting him on his back and sitting on his chest. Guys, this went from a dog or pass bet to a dog or pass bet. I'm not betting Andreas Gustafsson. I am picking Khaos to at some point find the button, but I don't like betting on guys who I think are going to lose right up until the point that they win. Because if that one big shot misses, they never get the win. I could see Andreas actually coming out here and winning a decision in his debut over a guy like Khaos. What do you make of this fight, man? Tell me what you're thinking here.
This is a tough one. If Gustafsson wasn't cutting weight in back-to-back weeks, which we've seen over and over again can be a real challenge for guys, I would be more confident in him. I still might pick him, at these odds, almost a 2-1 underdog for all the reasons you mentioned. I don't think he's going to give Khaos those opportunities to really get off. I think Khaos, I know he's got round 3 KOs before. He got one over Miguel Baeza, perhaps other ones, but that's the only one I'm looking at in my notes. Typically, he's going to start you early. 30-second KO win over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, 90-second KO over Carlston Harris. Those are big wins. I don't think Andreas Gustafsson will ever get wins over guys like that. Going to a split decision loss against Randy Brown, where Khaos was just pressuring him, making it really uncomfortable for the longer, a rangier Randy Brown there. I have a decently high opinion of Khaos, right? But he starts out pretty technical, and once he gets tired, he gets pretty gosh darn looping. And, the takedown defense concerns against Bonfim that you mentioned, I think they could be exposed again here because, like you said, Andreas is just going to crowd him, push him up against the cage. He got that Contender Series win with some nice plum knees in round 2 there after just cage controlling all of round 1. I never thought Andreas was really good. I was pretty confident in Pitlick in that fight because the pre-Contender Series tape for Gustafsson just wasn't very impressive, but he's got just such a difficult style to deal with, and it's going to wear guys out like you mentioned. So, I think this fight could be really just scrappy and messy, and Khaos could start getting frustrated. I would probably pick Gustafsson at these odds as an underdog, but like I said, the weight cutting in back-to-back weeks is going to be a factor. There's just no.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point.
But he's not super fast. He's hittable, predictable entries, real basic on the feet, real just like looping and overly aggressive. He's a real class act, surprisingly. He's got kind of a sketchy past. He's all tatted up. He fights really mean, but once the fight's over, I've been impressed multiple times with how cool he is and respectful to the opponent. So he's he fights so mean, but he seems pretty chill after the fight. And, but he's a frustrating matchup for a lot of guys, I think. So this is a tough one. Obviously, Khaos can nuke anybody, but it's going to be tough. I think we got a live dog here.
Okay. Yeah. So you and I are kind of seeing this one the same. Again, you guys, at the end of the day, I'm picking Khaos Williams. It's just that my confidence is super low here. He is a one-hitter quitter type of power puncher. And with those guys, they can close the show at any point in time. I just don't like laying -200 on those guys. That's because sometimes they don't close the show. Like looking back at Khaos's fight, the one that I was actually live at here in Arizona, was when he lost a brutal split decision to Randy Brown. I thought the knockout was coming. We've seen Randy Brown chinned a bunch of times, but he wasn't ever able to find that big shot, and so he got squeezed out in that fight. Now, obviously, Gustafsson not anywhere near the level of Randy Brown, but that's still the point stands. You know what I mean? So let's see if he can land. He's obviously dealing with a larger, older, slower, easier hittable target, but the grappling is just such a big red flag to me. So picking Khaos, can't lay the line on Khaos. I don't mind if you guys want to look at round 2, round 3 props though, because kind of like we talked about, right? This one could get extended with grappling and see if Gustafsson slows down or tires out or something like that. And frankly, a round 1 flattening wouldn't shock me either because Khaos just has that kind of power. What is going on, VB, my brother? Thank you for being here in the chat. And thank you for also recognizing that I was done dirty in the Dusko decision. We should have gotten that one. Glenn Bott in the house. What's up, buddy? Thank you very much for being here. All right, you guys, let's keep it moving. Next fight up, MarQuel Mederos takes on Mark Choinski. Choinski. Is that how you say that? Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Mark the Shark, which I always love a good rhyming nickname. That's a good one. This one's tough, you guys, because it's a couple of fighters that we do not have a ton of experience with, right? We have got MarQuel Mederos, who is coming to us. I don't know what the hell's going on with my notes right now. For some reason, they are all out of order. Give me just a second here to reload this. Oh, and then it's just going to mess me up anyway. Great. That's great.
I could go first on this one.
Yeah, you know what? Why don't you do that? Because my notepad here is freaking out, and for some reason, it's not giving me my most up-to-date notes that I typed. They should be very accessible to me, but they're not. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and lead us off here if you don't mind?
Sounds good. I like MarQuel, generally speaking. He's come through for me a couple times. I bet him in both of his UFC fights, and they were both really close, but he came through. He fought just like 7 weeks ago on UFC Mexico. I swept that card, and that was like the first fight of the night, and it was so sketchy. I mean, he would have lost if he didn't bust Austin Hubbard open with that kind of north-south elbow in round 3 and had him leaking, because the control time was all Austin. But I'm forever indebted to MarQuel for coming through in that spot. He's a good striker, good feints, flashy style, factory X guy, decent low kicks as you'd expect. He's got some grappling concerns. He's been reversed. He can't hold guys down, but he does have some okay takedowns. And his takedown defense used to be a big concern, but the Isakov fight addressed, most of those concerns. But then he got taken down by Landon Quinones, and he could not take down Landon Quinones. So, long story short, I don't think his wrestling is that great. We saw Austin Hubbard get him down, of course, as well. He gets a little tall and flat-footed in the pocket, pretty hittable. He does some weird things with his footwork. He kind of switches stances unnecessarily in striking range and doesn't throw anything. John Castaneda does the same thing. He just switches his footwork and doesn't do anything. We talked about the Austin Hubbard fight, close fights, the Landon Quinones fight. Landon was landing on him big time, had him hurt in round 1. I'm actually really surprised MarQuel got that decision, but mostly a striker and pretty darn good. I did quite a bit of tape on Choinski. He's a good grappler, good cardio. He's the champion in Anthony Pettis' org, but I don't think he's good at all. Really flat-footed and plodding. He feints a lot of takedowns, really ugly striking, really looping and hittable. He ducks down in the pocket a lot. He gets off balance and overreaches when he's throwing. He'll throw some low kicks. He'll try throwing high kicks, but they've got nothing on him. He sticks his neck into guillotines when he shoots. Not the greatest wrestler and not the greatest top control. When you look at his record, when you look at him on Tapology, I was expecting a far better wrestler than what I saw on tape. Last time out, he got the round 1 rear naked choke over John Ramirez, but Ramirez was pressuring him and landing, and Choinski got a nice single leg in space, and then, just did a good job of passing guard. He took the back, almost got too high and slipped off, but he did a good job of kind of grabbing an armbar attempt and grabbing an underhook and keeping the back when it looked like he was going to slip off. Before that, he won the belt in a 3-round decision over John Simone, and Simone actually went for a takedown on him late in round 1 and got it easy.
Ricky's little brother.
Yeah. Choinski threatened a guillotine and gave up his back to get up. Round 2, Simone tried another takedown and landed on bottom. But, in his last couple fights, Choinski only really got 1 takedown. He's content to strike sometimes when you think he wouldn't be. 3 fights ago, he got a 96-second arm triangle choke over Reese Archer, but Reese Archer was 2-8, and Choinski failed the first takedown attempt, but then applied some really high-paced pressure on the feet, got Archer off balance, and then he was able to get the takedown. And once he got the takedown, everything was easy for him. But his wrestling is not that great. I've seen him airball takedowns. I've seen him get stuffed pretty bad. I've seen him lose position, and his striking is really, really, really rough. So MarQuel fell out a few days before the fights, right? Because he was severely ill, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't train, couldn't cut weight. So it's a little different than, for example, the Andreas Gustafsson fallout where he was cutting weight and Giles falls out, right? So, it's a little concerning picking MarQuel after he was really, really sick 5 days ago, but at least he's not going through back-to-back weight cuts here. I think MarQuel's got the takedown defense, even though it's not great. I think he's going to be able to keep it on the feet, and on the feet, it's all MarQuel by a mile here. So I'll go MarQuel.
Okay. Yeah, man, you didn't leave much room for me to do much on that fight. You really nailed that thing. Mederos was supposed to fight Oki, which after watching Oki, who knows, maybe he could have won that fight. I actually live bet Oki's opponent and thought he won round 1 as well last week. That fight was 1-1 going into round 3, and I had plus 750 for a half unit live, which I, again, just right there, one of those weeks where I just 1 or 2 bounces my way and it wouldn't have been as bad. I think Mederos, Mederos obviously has a very, very good striking game and a very big advantage on the feet. I do like the way that he works the body. His get-up game seems to be pretty good to me, and he's also pretty relentless. When he backs you up, it really doesn't stop. Choinski, man, I don't know that his level of competition is anything to write home about. You could say the same thing for Mederos, but the Anthony Pettis FC, like, they're really building a couple of guys over there. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if this guy just gets completely fraud checked here at the UFC. The one thing I will say is I do think he's actually a pretty good scrambler. There was a moment in one of his fights where like he got top position, rolled immediately to the back and was looking and hunting for that rear naked choke, sunk it in really, really quickly. So Mederos is going to have to mind his P's and Q's. He's going to have to watch out for those slick transitions. If he doesn't get caught with something, then Mederos is probably the one winning this fight over the course of 15 minutes. And I think Choinski is going to have to grapple. So I'm with you. I will pick Mederos as well. But you guys, this is another one that just, the lines are so treacherous here. MarQuel Mederos, after being sick, pulling out, quick turnaround, he's minus 240, minus 245. His opponent, Mark Choinski, the grappler here, plus 200. Undefeated debutant. You guys know what happens to undefeated fighters in 2025. So I can't entice anybody on an underdog bet here. I could see him maybe potentially hitting some takedowns and getting his game going, but I think it's going to take more than that to beat MarQuel Mederos here in this spot. I just don't think Choinski is this level. Yeah. All right. Shout out Seth Otto. That is what is up. Brother, one of the first times watching live. Got to go restart. Just wanted to say your show helps me through some of the roughest weeks of work. One of the best and entertaining shows in the game. Clint fan till I die. Seth, you are the man. Thank you very much for the kind words, more so. Thank you so much for the donation as well. It definitely goes a long way and helps me out, helps my heart. I am so happy to hear that I help you out getting through the weeks, you guys. That's what the show is for. We all love our MMA, and there's just not enough MMA content in the game, not enough good MMA content in the game. So glad to give the diehards what they need to get through their weeks. My man, thank you so much for supporting. And when you get caught up after restarting the show, I hope you enjoy the shout out. Real quick, we've got Sean asking Panthers or Oilers. I got to tell you, Sean. So for whatever reason, I kind of hate the Oilers. I don't know why. I just have always had this like built in, like they're over. It's kind of like the Leafs. Like I have no real reason to hate them, but I feel like they're like overrated. They've been around forever. They're like the Dallas Cowboys. Every single year, someone's like, oh, this is our year. We're going to win it. We got the squad. And then they just never do. Right. So I kind of have this built-in bias against them, but they really seem like they have figured it out. Plus, you had the Oilers lady flashing the entire crowd last year when they won the whole thing. That gives them a up in the, in my book. I like the Panthers. I feel like they're built for war. I like they picked up Marchand. Like, I just think they're a fun team to watch. I like the way they play hockey and the way that they can come back after, they could be down 4 goals going into the third period. It doesn't matter. They'll still win that thing in OT somehow. So I kind of like the Panthers, but it's a very competitive final for the Stanley Cup. I can't wait to watch this Stanley Cup final. It's so freaking good. Shout out my guy, Dan Levy. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and great call out, man. Great call out. Absolutely. You guys, I need to get a Patty the Batty style speech planned up for this one. Don't have it ready and pinned here for you, but mental health is no freaking joke. And especially those of us who are gamblers, make sure your mental health is in check, because you can do some really stupid things with your money if your mental health is not where it needs to be. So make sure you're checking in on yourself regularly. Make sure you text that, your best friend, the guy that's going to call you a fuckwad and an asshole, but it's done with love. So it actually makes you feel better instead of making you more upset. Make sure you're checking in with the close ones that you keep tight. And if you guys need help, it's not a sign of weakness to ask for it. Make sure you're getting the help that you need out there, everybody. All right. Let's move it along. Next fight, you've got Quillan Salkilld, and he takes on the Red Fox, Yanal Ashmouz. Man, I've had a little bit of a tough spot here. Dixon says, check in on Rayani betters. You couldn't be more right about that, Dixon. This is therapy right now, right? We've got 2 Rayani Dos Santos betters on camera. This is not a podcast. We're making sure to, our mental health is being taken care of this week. Oh my Lord. Okay. So you guys, Yanal Ashmouz, 30 years old, 8-1. He's 2-1 so far in the UFC. I feel like there's a little bit of something here, man. I'm not sure exactly why. He's very, very physical. He's very strong, but the skills are limited, right? He comes in, he wings overhands, he's winging big power hooks. He's got great head movement. surprisingly. He's got really good timing on like blast double legs, and his offensive wrestling is exactly what it needs to be to like relieve the pressure of an opponent who's got an advantage on the feet or a speed advantage or something along those lines. We've seen him hit takedowns on people without much of a problem. Even like Chris Duncan, you know, his win over Sam Patterson, while it might have been a little bit fluky in his UFC debut, that has aged spectacularly. Patterson was one of my like circle 'em prospects for the UFC, and he's just doing wonderful things now that he has moved up a weight class. And it's funny because Quillan Salkilld kind of reminds me a little bit of Sam Patterson when he was killing himself cutting down to this weight class. Quillan Salkilld is 8-1, his only loss coming by way of submission. He's 1-0 off Dana White's Contender Series, and he absolutely nuked Ansel Jubilee. Now, if you guys remember that night, it's been a rough couple years for me betting just in general. But that was a night where I got laughed out the building because I made a very strong case for Ansel Jubilee. And it was like literally the first punch thrown. He goes down, crumples, and the ref stops it. Like there was no fight. We didn't even get to see what happened because he got absolutely pasted by this man. And you know, those kinds of meme finishes, for me, they don't tell me anything. I didn't get to see the fight play out. I don't know if I was right or wrong about the skills. I don't know if I was right or wrong about the matchup. Like, it's like Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo. I always wanted them to rerun that fight because I think Aldo wins it more often than not. But because we had the one left hand 2-second KO, that's it. It's over. And you don't get to see anything else. So I still have unresolved issues with that last fight. Also, I just want to mention, I feel like it was a little bit of an early stoppage. I know it didn't look good, like the way he landed, the way Ansel Jubilee went down. I know it didn't look good, but as soon as he realized a follow-up shot wasn't coming, he got up and started shooting for a takedown. Not to say he was going to come back and win the fight, but like it was so fast. I just wish they would have let it play out. Quillan Salkilld, I have massive, massive questions around. He's 25 years old. He was the eternal lightweight champion. And I talked about this when I broke his fight down last time. He was actually supposed to go onto the road to UFC. You guys know I hate the road to UFC. The people coming off road to UFC are awful. So I'll repeat it. I have two theories here. One, he was too good. And they knew that he was going to wreck everybody on the road to UFC, so they didn't let him compete, right? Or option two, he wasn't good enough for road to UFC. And in that case, he's a meme machine and he's not good at all. I'm not sure which one is correct yet, right? But something happened there that they did not let this man compete on the road to UFC. I like his length. I like his jab. I like his cardio. He is a guy that like knows how to backpack people. He knows how to make you carry his weight. He knows how to wear on you, and he doesn't ever really go away. But the downside of Quillan Salkilld is that he doesn't move his head. I mean, not even a little bit. He's there for target practice. I could overhand Quillan Salkilld. I wouldn't knock him out, obviously, but like I could hit him because he just doesn't move. There's nothing there whatsoever in the way of defense. His chin has checked out. He seems to be very durable. But against a guy like Yanal Ashmouz, who is a nuclear powerhouse, I don't want the guy that ain't moving his head. You know what I mean? So I can't, again, this is one where, guys, this card is rough. We were talking about it before the podcast got started. The lines for this pay-per-view card are brutal. You're going to have to do a 4 or 5 leg parlay to get somewhere in the vicinity of plus 120. And one of these assholes is going to shit the bed. Like I'm telling you right now, one of these jerks is not going to cover, and one of these guys is going to mess up everybody's parlays. That's what they're planning. That's what the bookies are counting on. It's just a matter of us avoiding the right one. And I'm worried about Quillan Salkilld being that guy. I can't bet on Yanal Ashmouz here because over the course of a 15-minute fight, Quillan Salkilld is taller, he's younger, he's longer, he's faster. So like he's got all of the boxes. But Yanal Ashmouz has the higher level competition experience. He has the power advantage. He's got perceived the wrestling advantage. And I worry about Quillan Salkilld getting bonked right on the button by somebody with UFC level enhanced power. So I could see a fluke freak knockout from Yanal Ashmouz. So it's a puncher's chance. but I don't want to lay minus 150 on a 1-0 guy who only has one win in the UFC, and that one win is maybe the worst guy on the roster in Anshul Jubilee. Talk to me, man. What do you make of this fight? Am I overthinking this one? Is Quillan Salkilld just the free space of the year? What's going on here?
No, I think you're onto something. I do pick Quillan, but I'm a little nervous about it. I've already parlayed him up because I was trying desperately to find stuff to pair up with Joshua Van. I think Joshua Van, sorry to, leak it here before we get to this fight, but I think Josh Van's going to end up like minus 900. I'm like trying to find stuff to pair up with Van, and I'm on Quillan pretty heavy, and it's the only one of my legs that's nagging at me a little bit. All right, these guys are both 8-1.
Don't you hate that hair on the back of your neck feeling?
Yeah. They're both 8-1. They both got 6 finishes in their 8 wins. Neither one's been knocked out. One of them's beat Jubilee and Gage Young. One of them beat Trevor Peek, Chris Duncan, and Sam Patterson. Right? Like vastly different resumes here.
Duncan broke his arm in the first round of that fight.
Yeah, Duncan beat
let's
him,
not forget.
Yeah.
Yanal went 15 minutes with a busted forearm, you guys. He blocked a kick from Duncan, couldn't throw one of his hands. He only had one hand the entire fight, and he didn't get finished. So, sorry, continue.
Oh, no. Thanks for correcting me there because, but still a very gritty performance there. And the Red Fox is hard to hit. I kind of think of this fight a little bit like the Hulk fighting Spider-Man or something where, he's just so nimble and tricky and hard to hit. He's got really good head movement, like you mentioned, and Quillan a little less good of head movement. It's interesting. The books perpetually like underrate. He was like plus 225 against Patterson. He was a slim underdog against Trevor Peek, and he was just taking Trevor Peek down like butter. I think that Quillan's got good enough takedown defense to keep it standing here, but I actually think like this fight's live to go to split. I think one of the risky props I get to this week might be fight to end by split. And because of their strong record of finishing guys, I think we might get like plus 700 or something on that. And I think it could just be really, really close. Yanal's very low volume. Quillan's going to be peppering him with teeps, much busier at distance, but unable to land anything super meaningful. And Yanal's going to be setting traps, trying to kind of get inside the range and land something heavy. He might try to employ some cage control. He might get some takedowns. He does have trouble holding guys down. We took Trevor Peek down 9 times and, had 8 minutes of control time.
You try holding Trevor Peek down.
Yeah, honestly, it's a little kind of firecracker.
That guy has got the Derek Lewis fuck you get up game where he's just so strong and never quits that good luck holding Trevor Peek down, man.
Yeah. Similarly, Quillan's got good wrestling, but not the greatest top control either. He really had trouble holding Gage Young down, and he couldn't really get him down in the first place until late in round 1 when Gage was starting to slow down. But Gage was landing on him plenty. Quillan was very jabbable, very hittable. Gage Young is not that great, just got soundly outstruck by Evan Elder. And I like Evan Elder, but I don't think he's the best striker in the world. And so we've seen Gage Young struggle. Gage Young was having lots of success against Quillan on the feet until he just kind of got tired, and Quillan was able to take him down quite easily from there, but had less than 5 minutes of control time on 9 takedowns. So I think we could see takedowns both ways and get-ups, kind of like even striking, like I mentioned with Quillan being a little busier, but, perhaps landing heavier stuff. So I think it's live to be a very sketchy, close decision. I'm on Quillan, but I think the line is a little wild just because he knocked out an Uber driver last fight.
Yep. Okay. So you and I are seeing this thing pretty much alike, man. The thing that I would be most nervous about in this fight, or not nervous about, is Quillan Salkilld like body triangling Ashmouz. Because if he can get to the back, I think he can just control him. You know what I mean? Not so much wrestling control, but more of a jiu-jitsu control style. I think he could do that and eat time away, but I would be interested in maybe looking at an over in this fight. I think a lot of people are expecting this fight to finish. And again, granted, bonk from Yanal Ashmouz could ruin all of that. But I think that Quillan Salkilld will have more of a struggle to finish a guy like Yanal Ashmouz than he did Anshul Jubilee, and we might even get a 1.5. I'm not sure what the total is. We don't have those this week to start the podcast. So do we have anything up on Bet Online for this one yet? Are you able to see?
Yeah, I'm looking right now. I know they've got totals here. Yeah, it's over 2.5 is -170. That's surprising to me.
See, those jerks they're sharp on it,
They're
man.
sharp.
I thought the round 1 16-second KO would give us a 1.5 for this fight. So
Yeah, I mean, across their 16 wins, only 4 of them are by decision.
Dave Mason, you bastard. Yeah, I thought a sneaky over might be the way to look here, but they're ruining that for me too. All right, fine. So Quillan Salkilld probably gets the win. I don't like it. Meme punch from Yanal Ashmouz, or maybe, who knows, double legs. Maybe he can control this lanky ass kid. We'll see. But my guy VB in the chat said that Quillan Salkilld is special. So that's enough for me to not try to fade the man. This is definitely going to be a watch and take notes type of thing for me because I can't get to that price. Money Talks Gambling in the chat says you can't hit him. Let's be real. Who are you talking to? You know who you're dealing with, Money Talks. I absolutely could wing an overhand and get to this man. Like I said, he doesn't move his head. It's like hitting a punching bag. I am fully capable of connecting one shot. Again, I'm not saying it'll do any damage. I'm not saying I'm going to win the fight. I'm just saying I could brush the hairs on his chin with my fist. Okay? That's all we're looking for. It's a very low bar. I'm absolutely capable of that. All right, moving right along, you guys. Azamat Murzakanov takes on Brinson Hebario in this fight. And wasn't this supposed to be Johnny Walker? Was this supposed to be Azamat Murzakanov versus Johnny Walker?
Yeah, Johnny Walker fell out around like May 8th. So Brinson's had about a month. It's not like the shortest of notices.
They are just trying to kill that man. My God, like they figured out Johnny Walker was somebody you could touch on the chin, and they're like, sure, give him Murzakanov. My God. So Murzakanov, you guys, I don't even know what to make of this guy. I have no idea what to do with Murzakanov. He's 36 years old, so he's an old man, but he's still undefeated somehow. And even in 2025 has not lost his undefeated record yet, which is shocking. He's got 10 wins by KO. Every single one of his wins by knockout is a complete meme. And he won a fight against Dustin Jacoby, which aged really, really well. Dustin Jacoby is a guy that absolutely has earned our respect, but that's like the one fight that went the distance somehow. And frankly, even looking at the fact that he got the win there, if you told me his fight with Dustin Jacoby went 15 minutes, I would tell you it was Jacoby by decision, right? Like just looking at the way they fight, him winning a decision against Dustin Jacoby very much surprises me and was very, very shocking. But he body bagged 3 other guys. He's 4-0 in the UFC so far, and he just nukes people. He's got crazy, crazy power. He was getting taken down though by Dustin Jacoby later in their fight. So I wonder about his grappling ability. Now, Brinson Hebario, 28 years old. Man, is Brinson real? Like, I feel like the girl on the plane. Like, that dude is not real. I don't know what to make of Brinson Hebario. He's 2-2 so far in the UFC, and I'm shocked because that 0-2 that he started off with against terrible guys like Magomed Gaziasulov, that's who I thought this guy was. Now, granted, Kyle Machado is not very good. Nurgajai, apparently, maybe not very good. But he gets a split decision over Machado. Bad look. Machado's bad. Winning the fight, congrats. But a split, like, you should be embarrassed. Nurgajai, however, got fraud checked by Hebario. This dude is 10-1. He lost his undefeated record because Brinson Hebario nuked him and then ripped his arm off in the second round. So he's a submission threat, but he's a meme machine. He can hit hard. He wings powerful hooks, but he's young, and it somehow seems like he is kind of improving. He goes life and death every single fight. And you're telling me we've got like an 8-year gap here in their age. 10 years is the big number, right? But whenever you've got that kind of an age gap, the younger fighters usually are the ones who are winning. Man, do we get the 2025 O-take loss here because Brinson Hebario has put it together somehow and Azamat Murzakanov is finally old enough where somebody can get a piece of him? I don't know what to make of this fight, man. I'm going to pick Murzakanov to win just in like a levels type situation. He's minus 550. That's too much. The KO prop is probably minus 300 because he just knocks everybody out. But I've got this weird, like, this is another one where I've just got this weird feeling that I'm like, but what if Brinson Hebario was just really young and dumb and now he's starting to get it? Like, what if he's turning a corner and he's putting it together and he's figuring it out? What if he's actually a prospect and just ran on a tough run at 205 where monsters can kill you, with a single punch in his first couple UFC fights. I got to go with Azamat Murzakanov, man. I have to, but I can't fathom laying minus 550 on this guy.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Azamat's 3-0 as a UFC favorite, but he's been off 10 months. He was supposed to fight in November and pulled out. Before that, he was out like a year and a half with multiple fight pullouts. It's kind of sketchy. He's had some cardio concerns, but he's got crazy power, really solid chin. If you've never seen him, you might think from his name that he's a boring wrestler, but far from it, right? Vicious southpaw striker, tons of power, diverse punches, for kind of like a thick, light heavyweight. He's not just in there head hunting, right? He loves to mix in the body. He's got that really nice step in knee. He's always undersized, so he finds really good ways of getting inside the range. But I tell you, he was at a reach disadvantage against Alonzo, height and reach disadvantage against Jacoby, but he's never been at a height and reach disadvantage like he's got here against Brinson, right? Brinson is huge.
It's crazy.
I think Azamat should try to go for takedowns. Problem is he's only got 15% takedown success. If he can get on top, he's beaten multiple black belts and he'll stay safe on top. He's not going to get Kimura like DR. And he's got 83% takedown defense, but as you pointed out, Jacoby took him down. I think that 83% might be a little bit misleading, a little bit skewed. He hasn't really fought any good wrestlers besides Devin Clark, I guess. It wasn't that long ago that Tafon and Chukwi was beating his ass, and it was about to bust everybody's parlays.
Oh, don't remind me.
Were you on Tafon there?
I was big on Tafon.
Oh.
And I've talked about it so many times. His corner ruined it because his corner in round 3 is going, go get a finish, go get him. And so he completely changed up his game plan in the 3rd round, trying to stand out and get a spectacular finish. And that's what opened him up for the counter. If he had just remained calm, he wins that fight and the rest is history. But fucking corners, man, they kill me sometimes.
Yeah, no, I was on Azamat there, and I'd already torn up the proverbial hypothetical ticket, and then to get that big knee in round 3 was so huge. But that's still in my mind, right? That it was just 4 fights ago where he was not looking very good, right? And then Brinson, like you said, he was kind of like considered bottom of the barrel, and now he's had something of a resurgence. That Magomed Gaziasulov fight, I actually cashed a plus 650 fight to go the distance there. That was when everyone was really down on Brinson's chin, but I knew that Gaziasulov's never finishing anybody. So I have fond memories of Brinson for being durable and, getting laid on for 15 minutes and cashing that ticket for me. But that kind of closes the loop on, why I brought up the Azamat going for takedowns here. DR got him down so incredibly easy in round 2. Magomed went 5 for 5, and Magomed's scrawny and undersized for the division, right? Got held up against the cage by Bruno Lopez, who is kind of undersized for the division as well, right? He looked like, Dustin Jacoby towering over him here. So on the feet, Brinson's decent, got really clean 1-2s. He does start to get a little looping when he gets tired. And sometimes on his 1-2s, he overreaches, overleans, leaves his head kind of out there on a silver platter. But generally speaking, until he's tired, I think he's pretty technical. I think Azamat's going to get inside on him, land those big body shots, land that step-in knee. Hopefully a takedown presents itself, like somebody opens a window and the wind blows and Brinson goes down. So I'm on Azamat, but I agree, there's a little bit of just volatility in this fight. We've seen both of these guys so hot and cold. It is 2025, as you said. So this is Azamat's first fight of the year, first opportunity to lose that O, but I think Azamat gets it done here.
Yeah, man. If you're just rolling on that 2025 angle, it's just been working, And Brinson Aberio, you guys, he is not a stranger to being the underdog. I need to see this fight. I need to see what happens here, because he's always lined the underdog. And if you've been blindly betting Brinson Aberio, you've just been printing. Like on Dana White's Contender Series, he was a 4-1 underdog. He was an underdog in both his first 2 fights. He did lose those, obviously, but he was an underdog against Khaos. He won that one. He was a big underdog, plus 300 against Nurgajai. Won that one. So, if you've been betting Brinson Aberio, don't stop. There's no reason to stop. Like, just ride or die. That's what I did with Dricus du Plessis. When you find that hidden gem of a guy that just keeps on coming through for you, if you're on the train early, don't get off. Don't get off until you've got a reason to get off. I was never on, so I can't argue that I'm going to jump on now, right? The moment could be over already. But if you've cashed with him, ride or die with him, dude. Like, he's paid you very, very well if you've been sharp enough to get on Brinson Hiberio in some of these fights. I can't wait to see the face-offs. I want to see how big he actually is when they get like nose to nose with each other. So I'm with you. Mirzakhanov, that's the pick. Not touching this money line. Like, this is another one where, especially the weight class, the age difference, the size, this is another potential like red flag bed shitter type of situation, just with all the factors. So yeah, Mirzakhanov is the more skilled guy. Mirzakhanov hits harder. Eventually that's not enough. Father time wins eventually. So yeah, Action Jackson. I do think he gets marked by Mirzakhanov. I agree with you. I do think he does. I'm just getting taken down by Dustin Jacoby is a bad look. If Ribeiro decides to come out and grapple in this fight so he can't get touched on the chin, there's a path. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is there's a path. I'm not saying I'm putting my money on him, guys. Don't yell at me. All right. Next fight up, you've got Ju Sang Yu, and he's taking on Jeka Sariga. I fucked this up every single time. Jeka Sarige? I've got the pronunciation
Serghei
somewhere. Serghei, thank you. I was just trying to pull it up. I'm like, I literally typed this out so I didn't mess it up, and then I forgot to pull it up, so I wasn't looking at it. Jeka Serghei. Ju Sang Yu, you guys. I immediately thought, it's 2025, 8-0 undefeated. Oh, we're fading the hell out of this guy. He's coming from road to UFC. He is not coming from road to UFC. And that's where I was like, damn, like I thought I had another undefeated road to UFC bum that I could just immediately dart throw fade, no problems. But he's not. He's getting signed by the UFC the good old fashioned way, by just winning fights and being impressive enough that they're like, hey, come on over, kid. And I actually think that means something. Like, I don't know. I don't have the data to back it up, but I actually feel like the guys that are getting signed are people the UFC have their eye on, unless they're coming in short notice to save a fight or something like that, obviously. But if they're not having to go through the hoops of road to UFC, they're not having to go on the Ultimate Fighter, they're not having to test themselves on Contender Series. These are the guys the UFC is just going, no, we want you, get a contract, get in the organization. So I kind of feel like that stands out as something. He looks like he's got a pretty aggressive top game. Whenever he gets into grappling scrambles and stuff like that, he's got good pressure from top. He's got good ground and pound. He looks like he's pretty physically strong. I worry about him on the feet because he's a little cocky. He does the thing where he dances around with his hands down. He plays with his fists low and tries to like bait you in with stuff. Doesn't always work super well for him. I'm not sure how polished he is. He's got good hips, but he has been taken down and he does make mistakes grappling. I have seen him like give up his back and people have just not been good enough to take advantage of it. He's fought a very poor level of competition. I will say he's got an absolutely nasty right hand, and that's kind of his moneymaker. He does most of his damage with that right hand. Now, Jeka, 14-4, has twice the experience of this man. He's already 1-2 in the UFC, so he's got 3 UFC fights under his belt. Granted, he's lost 2 of them, but that experience means something. He is a road to UFC fighter, which we know is a bad thing. And frankly, he's another meme machine, you guys. He's got nonstop foot on the gas, pedal to the metal. I'm going to go forward and break you or run face first into something. He got beaten up in his first UFC fight by Anshul Jubli. And we already talked about Jubli. That looks terrible. That has aged super poorly. He's another guy who loses every second of the fight right up until the point that he wins. And his one win was against Lucas Alexander. And it was only a 2-minute fight. But he was losing everything right up until he just absolutely nuked the guy. He's got big power. He's got big finishes. He's a very aggressive grappler and scrambler. He does have vicious ground and pound if he gets on top of you. I kind of am not sure what to make of Jeka at this point. I feel like he's going to upset the apple cart a couple of times, and he's not going to get kicked out of the UFC immediately. But this is obviously a spot where the UFC is signing this undefeated prospect from Korea to come in here, and they found a guy that he can beat. I'm just not so sure that he actually will do well enough against Jeka to win. If he lands that right hand early, he's going to win by first round KO. This is another squash match. Don't get me wrong. But like I mentioned, the mistakes he's made in the grappling, the Jekabai sub prop is going to be super live if this fight gets extended. So I like violence. You know, it's probably Jusang Yu. I will pick Jusang Yu to win this fight. But again, the line is out of control for a debutant, for a guy who's not fought anybody, for a guy at the UFC level who we just don't know if he's any good or not, who's fought bad competition elsewhere, like 10-4, 18-7, 5-2, 35-25. Like, my God, what are these records? I missed pulling the trigger last week on someone everybody thought was an absolute bum against a debutant who is coming from a weaker organization with less experience. And I missed out on a massive score on Ramiz Brahimaj. I kind of feel like this fight is very, very similar because Jusang Yu is closing in on the minus 500 mark here. You're getting plus 370 on a guy in Jekka who seems like he's doing a couple of things right at least. And like I said, the grappling really is kind of the biggest piece of the puzzle here, where I think if he gets the fight into the grappling realm, he could tie this guy into a pretzel. So, yikes. I can't quite get there, man. I can't outright just be like, you got to play Jekka. But it's kind of dog or pass for me, just considering all the factors and the experience difference and the UFC caliber experience. Like, I got to go dog or pass. If I'm putting my money on anything, it's going to be on Jekka this week.
I don't blame you. I'm picking you, but I agree with almost everything you said there. Yu is a really good striker, lots of power, but never looping, laser of a straight right. He's dropped multiple guys with a naked right hand, like just
that's
nice
the key
straight
right there.
He does a pretty good job of floating on top when he does land on top. He's not typically going for takedowns, but as you said, he's got strong hips. He often stuffs a takedown and lands on top. And when he does land on top, he's got really good ground and pound. You know how like when a fighter's on their feet and they put their body into their punches, all that torque starts from their toes and ends at their fist like a whip. But then when they get on the ground, they just kind of, batter. He like twists his body on his ground and pound. And it's like straight technical ground and pound. It's really powerful, really precise, really impressive stuff. He's got decent back takes. He'll lock in a body triangle. He's got really good reversals and get-ups when he does get taken down. As you mentioned, sometimes he does give up his back. But on the feet, he's just really freaking clean, really good range management and counters. And he's a showman. You know, he'll keep his hands down, like you said. He'll do the Max Holloway and taunt, like, with his hands straight down. It seems to me that he has zero fear or respect for opponent's power. And this is finally a matchup where that could hurt him, right? Because Jekka does have good power. Sometimes you back straight up. Sometimes he doesn't have the greatest head movement. Again, because I think he has no fear. I think his BJJ has some issues, but like he's decent in scrambles. But when he's on top, he'll like let guys wrist control him really easily. That could eventually cost him a triangle or armbar submission loss. He does give up his back. I've seen him take the back countless times, like literally 7, 8, 9 times where he's threatening rear naked choke and he's never got one in any of the fights. Against Ji-Hee Jung, he did get a round 2 rear naked choke, but since then, in like 6 fights, he's had like 10 opportunities to get a rear naked choke on pretty low level guys, never got it. So his grappling leaves a little bit to be desired, but again, just really, really strong in the scrambles. And I think Jekka has some of the worst ground game in the division. I actually cashed on Weston Wilson plus 375 because Angel Jubilee was able to take Jekka down like butter. Angel Jubilee has no ground game. I knew that Weston Wilson, had a pretty good chance to out wrestle him there, and he sure did. Jekka's
I missed out on that one, man. Too many of you cashed without me on that prop there. I thought it was like a fade shit with shit situation, so I didn't get involved on that one. So great call.
Thanks. That one like has you written all over it. I'm normally looking for chalk. I'm just like eating chalk. It helps my stomach feel good, like Charlie. And so I'm proud of that one. But Jekka, what's interesting, like, do not blink at the glove touch. Both of these guys in their last fight threw somewhat questionably, ethical strikes at the glove touch. You threw a nice spinning back body kick, and against Weston Wilson, Jekka threw just like vicious punches, like while touching gloves. Kind of sketchy in my opinion. Ray Serghei,
you're not cheating, you're not trying in this sport, man.
Yeah, people loved roasting, Ray Serghei about it. Both of these guys, especially Jekka. I think that was kind of questionable of him, but you
For
know,
sure.
Jekka's got crazy power. And so I think this fight is going to be a striking affair. If it does hit the ground, I give you a slight edge, but on the feet, this thing could be dangerous. Neither guy's been knocked out, right? Neither guy's been knocked out. And, so this one, I'm struggling on a prop. Like, you tend to think it could be a long striking decision, but they both are really good offensively on the feet. So I think Jekka's live at these odds, despite, my multiple issues with his ground game. It's they both got a ton of power.
Jekka did get TKO'd by Anshul Jubli.
Did he? Oh, yeah, that's right. The elbows. Apologies. Thanks. I got to fix that in my notes.
So that is the one KO finish.
Gotcha. Yep, you're right. And he's been sub twice. So I think he was going to get it done. I think he should try to get it to the ground, and he's going to have a vast edge there, even though he's got some slight holes in his game. But this has fight of the night written all over it. And I would say this is a must play, a high exposure fight for DFS, but Jekka can be incredibly low volume. In his fight against Pawan Man, he landed 37 strikes in 12 minutes, 13 minutes. It almost went the distance. Just some of the lowest volume you'll see in this division. So, but it has fireworks and it's going to be exciting. I'll go with you.
Okay. I'll go with you too. No, I will also be picking you in this spot. And, especially with him getting TKO'd on the ground by freaking Anshul Jubli, man, you got to think that if you puts this man on his back and just goes to work with that right hand, it's probably a TKO. So yeah, we'll pick you here. I think violence is probably the answer in this fight, even though they're both pretty tough. I could see you just never having faced somebody that hits as hard as Jekka. And then, like I said, that hands down style, he could get cracked at any point in time in this fight. So violence for me, probably you, most likely you by KO. All right, guys, let's keep it moving. We've got a heavyweight fight here. We've got Serghei Spivac taking on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. And finally, we can talk about a betting line that is not blown out. We can talk about a number that is less than 400. You guys, we have 4 fights on this card. 4 fights where the favorite is under minus 250. This is a brutal chalk eating card. I am coughing on the amount of chalk that there is on this fight card. It's all landmines. You've got to watch out for the maybe one underdog that will squeak a split decision victory or pull off the bonk upset or something like that. It's just brutal this week. This one, we can finally talk about a competitive line. Now, Serghei Spivac, we know all about. He's improving rapidly. He's come into a bit of a rough run recently. He's more wrestler than striker, but his striking seems to be coming along. He's just now coming into his prime, which heavyweights, we know these guys hang around in their prime a lot longer than most other weight classes. The power is the last thing to go. It's a big edge for these guys to just be able to be big and bulky. And once you've got the skill advantage at this weight class, you can just nuke everybody for years and years and years and years. So Serghei has been fighting an uphill battle. He's 30 years old now. He's finally gotten to the point where he can put it together. 2-2 in his last 4 fights. Got TKO'd by Jailton Almeida. Not really surprising anybody. Jailton looks like he's headed for the title. Got taken down by Marcin Tybura, snatched his arm immediately, subbed him. Meme type of finish. But, you got to give him credit where it's due with that submission offense. And then he got TKO'd by Serghei. So he's losing to title challengers. Go back, when he first got his first L in the UFC, or not his first L in the UFC, sorry, but, when he started to put a run together back in 2021, he got knocked out by Tom Aspinall. So it's he's beating all these guys on the way up, but now he's losing to the challengers, the contenders, the title holders. So he's kind of capped out at this point, but he's only 30 and he's improving. Relentless takedown game. Absolutely relentless takedown game. Nasty ground and pound once he gets on top of you. Very opportunistic submission game when he gets on top of you. And the struggle was a guy like Jailton Almeida. He actually hit takedowns on Jailton Almeida. He actually got top time on Jailton Almeida. But Jailton is such a savvy jiu-jitsu practitioner that he hit him with butterflies and swept him. I mean, guys don't do that at heavyweight, you guys. It's funny. I've told the story before. My grappling days, I'm one of the relatively larger guys in the room, right? Usually with jiu-jitsu, it's much smaller people, and so the big guys want to be on top. The big guys want to be the bully. Everybody always wants to be on top. You don't want to be under a 240-pound man. So I always made it my mission to learn how to play off my back, because I was like, well, I'm going to be grappling against these monster fuckers. I've got to learn what to do and what happens worst case scenario, right? I can't just be a fish out of water. So I would always invite everybody my size to get on top, and I would work my butterflies, and I would work my sweeps, and I would work my rolls and my reversals. These guys in the UFC, they don't do that. Nobody works the bottom, right? We've seen that with freaking Romanov. Like, as soon as he gets put on his back, that's a wrap. Jailton is one of the few who can use little man jiu-jitsu, butterfly sweeps, reversals, etc. And that was Serghei's undoing. As soon as he got reversed a couple of times, he didn't know what he was doing. He couldn't keep up. He became a nail. And sometimes Serghei's not a very good nail, right? But he's fighting Waldo Cortes-Acosta in this spot. Waldo's 13-1. He's 33 years old, so he is a little bit older. He's a pretty good athlete. Like, he's very thick. He's very strong. He's got big, meaty tree trunk thighs. He's got a good jab on him. It's kind of crazy because they talk about him like he's got ungodly power. And that's just not true. I tell you guys this every single time we break down a Waldo Cortes-Acosta fight. They talk about him like he's got stupid power. He doesn't. He's got fast hands. He's got accurate punches. He's a very big man, but he's not a huge power hitter. Now, he is coming off a TKO win. Round 2, Ryan Spann. What do we know about Ryan Spann? If it gets out of round 1, he ain't winning that fight. He's got a glass chin. He's got no cardio. If the fight gets extended, it's a wrap. So I'm not super excited about him TKOing Ryan Spann. I don't think it's suddenly him turning a corner and just being this monstrous power puncher or anything like that. We've got a minus 140-ish line here on Serghei Spivac. And you guys, I think this is Serghei's coming out party. I think Serghei can get in on the hips of Waldo Cortes-Acosta relatively easily. He's way faster than people think. I think the speed difference between these two men is going to be apparent on fight night when they close that cage door. And then on top of that, you go back and you watch Waldo Cortes-Acosta's fight with Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I know everybody loves Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I can't figure out for the life of me why. He's old, he's fat, he's a 185er that is now fighting at heavyweight. Like, this is not a man who should be fighting at heavyweight, and he's at the end of his run, at the end of his career. He's more of a jiu-jitsu guy and a leg kicker. He took down Salsa Boy anytime he wanted to. I mean, just tip him off balance, and he went down. Serghei is a much better wrestler than Marcos Rogerio de Lima is. He's younger, he's bigger, he's faster. I think he's got better meds. I think Serghei Spivac is going to have zero issues getting on top of Waldo Cortes-Acosta. And now if the fight gets extended, I can see where Waldo can turn the tables, box him up, hurt him with the hands, that kind of thing. However, I don't think Spivac's going to give him that option, because as soon as the fight hits the ground, he is enough of a jiu-jitsu guy that he will look for mount, he will look for side control, he will look for hooks, he will flatten you out, he'll hit an arm triangle. The submissions he attacks once it hits the ground makes it very, very hard for these guys to work their way back up to the feet. He also can chain wrestle. You go back to when Serghei Spivac was fighting Derek Lewis, and it was a one-round fight, but every time Lewis went up, boop, right back down. Like, he has no problem chain wrestling at this weight class against these massive men. So even if Waldo does work his way up once or twice, he will end up right back down on his back. It's not like he's going to get an option to continue getting up over and over and over again against this particular opponent. I think this is a cheap price tag, man. I like Serghei Spivac, and I think I'm going to end up betting him.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I agree. I kind of thought this would be maybe minus 200. When we think of Spivac, he's fought far better guys, right? Waldo, I have a high opinion of him, but it was not that long ago that he really struggled against Andrei Arlovski. Waldo did really impress me in the Robles to Spain fight. He was able to get takedowns, of course, but he looked pretty darn good on the feet, and he looked unafraid. I thought that was a pretty ballsy and impressive performance there, striking with Spain. We've seen him knocked out brutally in boxing, but by really good guys. I don't believe he's ever been knocked out in MMA. Really fast jab, solid cardio. He's got some good late finishes. He's technical, accurate, efficient on the feet, long reach. But yeah, the ground game concerns, and then it doesn't really apply in this matchup, but I always remember that Waldo really struggles with low kicks. It's not going to hurt him here, but to me, his takedown defense, even though it's like 66% on paper, it's just not that good. And I think Spivac is very darn good. Making easy work of Marcin Tybura, not easy. When you look at who Spivac's beats, Derek Lewis is the best win. Besides that, it's a bunch of, not great guys. And so, it's a binary fight. I think if Waldo could keep it on the feet, he would definitely win a technical striking match here. But I think Spivac's going to get him down, even if he has to get greasy. And I don't know if he can M&R roll at his size, but he was on bottom against, Marcin, right? And ends up getting that finish. He doesn't have to get really dominant positions to have you in danger on the ground. He can even get greasy, and I don't want him pulling guard in there, but he's just so vastly superior on the ground here that I think he'll do whatever it takes to get into those exchanges and scrambles. And I think he's going to look really good there. But, Waldo's improving. His physique is improved. He didn't used to have abs, and lately he's got abs. Waldo's good. He's no slouch, but I'm on Spivac as well.
Waldo's got abs, but doesn't Spivac have back sits? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Those abs might not help you here, buddy. Shout out Groundskeeper. Thank you very much for the donation, my friend. Saying, I dare you to bet against the man who round one's Derek Lewis. And that is what's up. Slimmy Jimmy with one of my favorites, Big Tree Falls Hard. And I absolutely love that saying. Completely agree with you. Shout out Liam Picks Fights in the chat. Liam, my boy, one of my favorite people in the game. Appreciate you. Yeah. Hope all is well with you also, my friend. We're going to have to link up and get you back on the show one of these days very, very soon. But I appreciate you being here in the chat and, talking with the rest of us. All right, guys, real quickly. So you're going to end up with both of your people here on screen on the Serghei Spivac side. And like I said, one of the very few bettable lines on this entire card, I will be playing it. I will be playing Serghei Spivac on Saturday. Quick break here, you guys. First off, Spectation Sports. Make sure you guys are getting on Spectation Sports. They've got so many awesome different organizations that are signing constantly. This week, we've got BTC 29. They're calling the show Prometheus. It's got a Greek theme. There's fire all over the place. It looks awesome. They've got a couple blue chip prospects that you guys need to know about. The big thing that I keep stressing about Spectation Sports is that a lot of these guys are going to be filling Dana White's Contender Series fights very, very, very soon. They're not on Fight Pass. If you want access to watching their tape so that you can be prepared for UFC fight or Dana White's Contender Series betting lines, you guys are going to need Spectation Sports. Not only that, their production values going up. The amount of organizations they've got going up. You're going to get events all the time in one place streaming right here on Spectation Sports. Promo code DIEHARD is going to save you guys 20% when you sign up. Get on board. They are awesome. The shows are getting better. They're signing UFC veterans, and over the next couple of weeks, they've got a ton of stuff happening. So June 14th, they've got North Iowa fights. I really enjoy North Iowa fights. And then they've got like a double triple header the week after that. Synergy FC 21, Baroka 3 on the same weekend. It's going to be awesome. Make sure you guys get signed up. And then I want to go ahead and make a shout out real quick. My guy, Razor Sharp Picks. You guys, I know I've talked about Razor a couple of times, and I know I talked about Keg a couple of times. I bring people on here, like I said, that are better gamblers and smarter than me to talk to you guys about these MMA fights because I'm just a degenerate over here, right? I'm an entertainer. I'm a gambler, not necessarily the person that you want to tail. However, the Sports Keg, my man Keg, and Razor Sharp Picks, they make me money. In all the other sports out there, they're some of the best gamblers I've ever met in my entire life. And I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I do, giving money away in the UFC, if it wasn't for them. So if you need somebody, especially to get you through these dog days of summer when it comes to MLB and stuff like that, you've got to give, especially my guy Razor, a follow. He's just been absolutely incredible. Check him out on social media. He doesn't pay me a penny to talk about him. I literally just tell you guys about him because he's that fucking good. And I'm trying to help you so that you can actually win some money and put some stuff in your pocket because he's very good at that. Yeah, Noel saying you're a lot more than entertainer, brother. That's for goddamn sure. Appreciate you very much for the kind words, Noel. I know, here's my thing. I'm completely self-aware. I know I can break down the fights very well, but I also know that my decision-making is terrible. I've told you guys the story about the girl that tried to flirt with me, who I pushed in the pool. Turns out she couldn't swim. Like, that's my life, okay? I try to do things, and I just somehow end up on the wrong end of them. When I was a kid, I was playing in the back of my dad's truck, and I got my thumb stuck in the inner workings of my dad's truck. They had to call the fire department. My fingers swole up. I was there for hours. They were going to amputate my thumb, you guys. Like, I thank God for firefighters. I still have all my fingers here. They had to cut the side of my dad's truck open to get my hand out of there. Like, this is the kind of human being you're dealing with here. I'm a degenerate gambler. You shouldn't follow my advice, but I can give you all the facts. I can give you a breakdown. So just know my decision-making has always really been the struggle in my life. I'm a sucker for redheads. What more do you need to know? Welcome back. We're talking UFC 316. I am joined by my guy, Aaron, from free UFC Bet Picks to break this card down. We've got just a couple more fights to throw at here for you guys. Next up.
Mention real quickly. Yeah. You were the top picker of last year on my chart. It's got 24 top experts. When you're the top expert of the week, you get a ruby. You had 6 rubies last year. You just like to get frisky with your bets, like you're here to, to have a good time and try.
Valentina Shevchenko really sitting over here.
Yeah, but there's nobody better at picking fights in the game.
I appreciate that, and that's what's so honestly, man, frustrating. So frustrating to me, because if I can be your number one picker in the year that I dropped 80 units, like I almost blew an entire bankroll gambling, and somehow I was the number one rated picker on these shows. Like, that shouldn't be possible. But guess who figured out a way to do it? Like, that's just me to a T. And like I said, last week I was talking about either Rayani Dos Santos or the giant man who won by KO in round 1 to anchor my parlay. Which one am I going to put in my parlay this? I'm picking wrong. Like, you just know I'm picking the wrong side. That's how I operate. I don't know how I'm still alive. I shouldn't be an adult. All right, guys, moving along. Back to the good stuff. Ariane Lipski takes on Cong Wang. And speaking of poor decisions, the amount of money that I have lost on Cong Wang is despicable. She had a kickboxing fight back in the day with Valentina Shevchenko. The UFC trying to sign her, get some wins under her because she's a fun character and a vicious striker. They could absolutely build a case for her to get up to a title fight very quickly, very easily. And then we've got an interesting storyline in the weight class. However, she got completely exposed to none other than Gabriela Fernandez. She ate the biggest head kick you've ever seen, and every single shot coming from Gabriela Fernandez was wobbling her. Every single thing she hit her with was hurting her. Like, Cong Wang gets way too cocky in there for her skill set, and she's extremely hittable. She bounced back with a big win. Call it a big win over Bruna Brazil, the one that the Fighting Nerds disowned as part of the team so they could keep their undefeated record intact. They were like, no, Bruna don't count. She got a win over Bruna. And frankly, if you're not finishing Bruna Brazil, it's kind of a rough look, man. She's 10-5. She's been knocked out 3 times. And that's where I lost all my money, because I bet Cong Wang big against Gabriela Fernandez. Oops. Like, she kind of got the fraud check there a little bit. Kickboxer turned MMA fighter. It's going to happen. Okay, you got me. But then she gets Bruna Brazil, and I'm thinking, this is an easy payday. She's going to knock this girl out. So simple, so easy. Just sit back and relax. It's happening, boys. She drags her to a boring-ass decision. She does the thing where when you get knocked out or submitted, whatever, you come back and you play it safe, you take it easy, you protect yourself, you get back on a win at all costs. It's not fun, it's not entertaining, but you know what? You got your hand raised, and from a fan perspective, from a human perspective, I understand fighters need to do that. Confidence is key when you're an MMA fighter. Getting double your paycheck is a big deal as an MMA fighter, so I get it. But I'm so disappointed that she couldn't ice Bruna Brazil, of all people. I'm starting to think Cong Wang might not be quite as good as I thought she was when she first got to the UFC. Now, Ariane Lipski da Silva, it was Ariane Lipski, then it was Ariane da Silva, now it's Ariane Lipski da Silva. She kept both names, I guess. 31 years old, and I refuse to acknowledge her as the Queen of Violence. Ladies and gentlemen, the Queen of Violence is dead. She's dead. She's gone. She got married, and she hasn't been the same person since. It's like when fighters who are like, previous drug abusers find Jesus. They lose that mean streak. They don't want to hurt people anymore. And frankly, she's one of those. She's talking about her faith a lot, which, again, I will say again, I'm a man of faith myself. I'm not knocking people for finding God, but when you're an MMA fighter and the blood coursing through your veins screams at you to break your opponent's face open, you lose that little bit of an edge when you start humanizing them and their souls. So it's not a good look for a struggling MMA fighter. All right. Some people find strength in it, but most of them lose their killer instinct. And it seems like Ariane Lipski has lost her killer instinct to some extent. She doesn't want to hurt people anymore, right? Like her last win was a Casey O'Neill submission. She didn't want to beat her up. She wanted to submit her, so it wasn't a brutal, vicious, type of thing. She lost the decision to Karine Silva. She got wrecked by Jazz Judavicius. She's 3-3 overall in her last 6, but the last 2 in a row, very concerning in my opinion. She's never been a very good defensive striker, and her fight or flight reflex is broken. When she gets hurt, she always goes fight mode, but she doesn't have the chin to back that shit up. So she immediately starts throwing back as hard as she can, and she just gets iced by people sometimes when that happens. One of my favorite bets of all time was cashing on Priscilla Cachoeira in that spot because I knew my girl Cachoeira was going to bring the heat once they started throwing in the pocket. Frankly, you guys, I think I am supposed to go back to the well here. Cong Wang is supposed to win this fight. Believe it or not, they're still trying to build her here. And Lipski is absolutely going to give her an opportunity to use those hands. I hate the number, though. I hate that this will be the 3rd time in a row that I've said this giant minus 500 favorite women's MMA fighter should win this thing by knockout in round 2 or round 3. It's the exact same thing I've said the last 2 fights in a row, and I've been wrong 2 fights in a row. So I don't really want to pull the trigger on it again for a 3rd time. But man, that's what I think is going to happen. I think she'll eventually frustrate Lipski de Silva to the point that they have to throw down. And when they do, Cong will be the faster fighter. Cong will be the one who hits a little harder. I think she'll TKO Ariane de Silva in the 2nd or the 3rd round. I don't know if I can put my money on it again, though, because my wife will divorce me if I lose money betting Cong Wang again.
Yeah, Wang sure wrecked me against Gabriela Fernandez. I beat a ton of line movement on it, got on her early. She ends up minus 1,000. I thought she was winning very easily until, she getting hurt bad there in round 2 and getting choked to sleep. At least she didn't tap. When a fighter busts like a crazy amount of parlays for me, I appreciate when they go to sleep, like at least they didn't give up, so but she's just so good. I bet Bruna Brazil's takedown props last fight, like to land 2, it was like huge plus money, and I was so excited about that. And after the fight, like I found out Kaya Barajo even said, yeah, our game plan is to take her down. Bruna only went for 1 takedown there. Cong just kind of like mesmerized her with the kicks. Bruna just didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And, that's something of a concern here. Like, yeah, she knocked out Victoria Leonardo in like a minute, but besides that, she can have a tendency to get into these kind of like point fights, like a sparring, like a real prize fight. She needs somebody to kind of press her, and Ariane might do that, but I think Ariane should try to wrestle here. I'm probably going to bet Ariane takedown props. She's going to go 0 for 1 and then not try for any more. And, I'll just be shaking my head, but I think Ariane's wrestling has improved a lot. She used to be known for having like the worst takedown defense in the world, right? But then she went to American Top Team, training with Amanda Nunes, and her takedown defense improved a lot. I cashed on her big as an underdog against Casey O'Neill. She defended all 7 of Gatto's takedowns, all 12 of Aldrich's takedowns, all 4 of Mandy Bum's takedowns. She defended 23 straight takedowns and was like having a resurgence. But then just big step up against Karine Silva and Jasmine. Like, Jasmine could beat darn near everybody, right? So you can't really knock her too much there. I still think Ariane's decent. I still think she's vastly improved versus where she was 3 years ago. But I think Cong's just going to mesmerize her with the kicks, outpoint her. I think Cong's a pretty safe parlay leg. Like we've talked about, some really wild lines. One of them might shit the bed. I don't think it's Cong, but Ariane's got power. She fights mean. She fights like with that scowl, but she's still technical. Like she's never looping. I got a lot of respect for Ariane's striking, and I sure hope Ariane lands a couple takedowns here. But I'll go.
There you go.
I do think Cong decision is live. I would, I kind of see Cong winning a decision.
I don't hate it. These kickboxers, man, it's like Dustin Jacoby. I talk about it that I'm like, they have no problem going the distance. Like if they're controlling a fight, they see no need to change it. And frankly, that's good strategy, right? But for gamblers, it's tough because like you should win by KO, you just don't. So I could see the decision happening. Absolutely. One thing you guys should know, Kong Wang is training out at Team Alpha Male for this fight. So she's hooked up with our boy Song Yudong. And that's a big thing. Like I know Team Alpha Male isn't what they used to be right now, but if you're working on your counter wrestling, your takedown defense, your get up game, and that's what a kickboxer needs to be doing, she's in the right place. You know what I mean? She's definitely working with good bodies and good people and a prospect that we all really like. So that's not a bad look for her to be there leading up to this fight against somebody who frankly is not the most savvy grappler in the entire world. So we'll see. Milkman, however, says fade Team Alpha Male always. Well, frankly, I don't think she's a member of Team Alpha Male. I think she's just getting the wrestling from Team Alpha Male. But what, you know, if you want to just stick to your guns on that one and fade away, man, I'm not gonna rock the boat, right? Absolutely. Rimdog says that's not a green flag. Absolutely not. And it's man, my goodness. I love the full-on makeup that she does, though. It's the teeth for me that gets it. She's absolutely terrifying on weigh-in day with the Joker mask there.
She gets the check mark in my system, for sure. This is one of the biggest discrepancies on my system I described to you earlier that you're going to find, because Ariane is fine. Yeah. So, you know she's losing. Yeah.
No, it's tough, man. It is tough. The UFC wants to make the pretty ones, you know, they're superstars, and it's rough, man. We talked about it with the Brazilian lesbian with the neck tattoo angle. Like you're built different if you're built like a man and you're taking neck tattoos right on the jugular, like you're made out of something else the rest of these women aren't. And so usually the pretty ones aren't going through that same type of pain. There's something to it. There absolutely is. All right. Next up, Bruno Silva takes on Joshua Van. Oh my Lord. Now, every single Josh Van fight, you guys, every single Josh Van fight is fight of the night contender right out the gates. You know, if you've got a book that offers fight of the night props or, you know, award props, stuff like that, it's always the Josh Van fight. That's the chalk. This guy is never in a boring fight. I love this kid. 23 years old, the most active fighter on the UFC roster. This will be his second fight here in 2025, but it's going to be his fourth scheduled fight in 2025. This guy just does not stop. Frankly, I think he needs to take a break. I know he's rolling in dough, cashing checks, and smoking cigars on the weekends because of this activity, but I think he needs to take a little bit of time off. He can make massive improvements and then come back and just be a freaking monster. But instead, he's fighting his way up the chain, and he's doing incredibly well doing so. Edgar Chairez, Cody Durden, Ray Tetsuria, Charles Johnson. I know he lost the Charles Johnson fight, but that's the type of fight that you gain something from and come back from. Josh Van's pace and pressure is incredible. He's so quick. He's got a lot of heat on his hands, but it's like stinging power. I've lost more money than I can count on Josh Van round 3 props. I always sprinkled Josh Van round 3. He never finishes his opponents. He's got people a bloody pulp in front of him, and he just keeps jabbing away at them somehow and doesn't bite down on the mouthpiece to actually go out there and get that finish. It's going to happen eventually. It's like the Ian Gary sub prop. It's going to happen eventually. I'm just not going to have money on it the night it finally does happen. So Josh Van is a beast, and everybody loves this kid. But this is a big step up, in my opinion. Bruno Silva, he's 35 years old, and he used to be a staple over at Fight Ready. He's got that same Fight Ready style that Henry Cejudo had, where it's very karate style, you know, very sideways stance, very explosive, but he's also a very, very strong wrestler. Low sense of gravity. He's very small for the weight class, but that helps him in those grappling transitions because it's very hard to take him down. It's very hard to control him. He actually can hit takedowns very, very well. Good timing on his level changes. Very hard to find in the cage. Now, he just got smoked by Manel Kopp. I got to tell you, the last 2 fights in a row of Bruno Silva, I need to just like pat myself on the back here for the last 2 fights on this guy, because I knew he was knocking out Cody Durden. We bet that KO prop. It was a glorious night. He was my dog of the week, plus 110. It was small. It's not anything to write home about, but he was my dog of the week. He got it done for us. And then we loaded up on Manel Kopp because we absolutely knew Manel Kopp was coming focused, coming dialed the fuck in, trying to make a run at this title. He was going to make a statement, and boy, did he. But Bruno's tough as nails. So I don't know that Josh Van is going to knock him out, because Josh Van already is kind of a decision merchant, even with the power that he brings to the table. The thing I worry about is how hittable Josh Van is. Josh Van got knocked out by Charles Johnson, which frankly, you guys, Charles Johnson ain't knocking many people out in this weight class. He got buzzed badly by Edgar Chairez. Chairez couldn't follow up on it, but he got hurt real bad. Cody Durden popped him once or twice, if I'm not mistaken. I believe Kevin Borjas did as well. Josh Van at 23 years old has taken enormous amounts of damage, and he is extremely hittable because he steps into the fire at every single opportunity. You can't do that with Bruno Silva. At this weight class, this guy's Francis Ngannou. Like, he has stupid power for this weight class, and he's incredibly underrated with his timing and his speed. I think Josh Van overwhelms him. I really do. And the number, of course, Josh Van is your stupid-sized favorite here, minus 550 to plus 410. But that durability, the nature of him being as hittable as he is, I worry that this is finally the moment where the bottom falls out. You know, I thought he was going to cook. I thought he was absolutely going to cook Charles Johnson, right? I was on the wrong side of that one. I love Charles Johnson. You guys know that. He actually tunes into the show sometimes. So, Charles, if you're listening, please forgive me. I got that one wrong, my guy. I knew the fight was ending in round 3. I just got the wrong fighter turning up and ending it in round 3. So I thought he was going to be the one to get the win that night in the 3rd round. But Charles Johnson turned the tables on him and hit him with a nuke. Bruno can do that too. Obviously, we like the younger fighter. Obviously, we're all fans of Josh Van. I'm just saying, this is another fight that is not without danger. I think it's Josh Van by decision because Bruno is very difficult to put away unless Manel Kopp absolutely shattered this man's chin, and he's just not the same thing as he was before. He'll hang around for 15 minutes. So Josh Van by decision for me.
I can do you one better on the heartbreak of the Josh Van round 3, because I always bet Charles Johnson round 3, because if he's going to get a KO,
no,
it's going to be attritional, right? Like, he's not going to start somebody in my mind. And I love Energy as well. I think I'm in a group chat with him. Like, he's a stud, so I hope he is watching.
Good dude.
But that was the fight where I was like, well, I'm not going to bet Charles Johnson round 3 KO this time because Van is my round 3 KO guy.
Because who outpaces Josh Van, right?
Right. And of course, Charles, it wasn't even attritional. He just absolutely starched him. So that's what I get. But, you know, you mentioned it's a big step up, but I don't know. Like, both of them have beat Cody Durden. And then who's Bruno's other best win? Tyson Nam, who's a stud, but in his 40s, right? Well, Van also beat Durden, albeit by decision. He didn't starch him like Bruno did. But he's also beat Edgar Chairez, Ray Cerrulla, guys who I have a pretty high opinion of. I actually think, even at this young age, Joshua has better wins. He is hittable, and he's a slow starter, right? Like, and to your point, he can't let Bruno come out and pop him a bunch in round 1 before he, gets in his groove. Even like Felipe Boons, round 1 was just backing up and countering, landing big time shots on Josh Van. But believe it or not, Josh Van is actually number 1 in UFC history on significant strikes landed per minute, 8.1. Absolutely absurd. He throws more volume than Terrence McKinney. Like, he lands more significant strikes per minute than Max Holloway, than Tom Aspinall, than anybody. So Josh Van, just absolutely unprecedented, record-breaking, number 1 in UFC history volume. And he's like top 10 in differential. He outlands opponents by almost 3 significant strikes per minute, despite being something of a slow starter. So, Bruno's a beast. Tons of power, good jiu-jitsu. Bruno's got 6 knockdowns in his last 5 fights. You're absolutely correct on the dangers that he brings. I think as long as Van, maybe he needs slapped up like a Guida. Like, he needs to get woken up in the back. Not in round 1 here, because otherwise he might be, getting woken up by the ref. But really confident in Van. Need him to come through. He's like my anchor. And I think he closes at like minus 800.
Wow. I mean, hey, this is the kind of week where you need an anchor with these crazy lines. I don't hate it, man. I mean, I think we all love Josh Van. The fans love Josh Van. The UFC knows they've got a potential stud in Josh Van at 23 years old. Like, this is a kid they frankly need to protect from himself, because he could be a long-time star in the UFC if they allow him to be. I'm just worried he's got too much tread on the tires at a very young age. If they keep letting him jump in here at this rate and take the kind of damage that he's taking, like, I worry about the future of his career. But I'm with you. I do think Josh Van is the side. And like I said, I think he stretches this thing out to a decision. I think we can still trust Bruno's chin to hold up and hang in there on that one. And there's the man himself, you guys. Razor Sharp Picks in the chat. What's going on, buddy? Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody else. Hit the like button. And I talked to you guys about him, one of the best gamblers I've ever met in my life. So check his stuff out. All right, you guys, we've got over 600 of you live watching the show tonight between all the different platforms. Thank you all so much for being here. And again, if you guys aren't on YouTube, do me a favor as I try to build up my YouTube. Head over there. Hit the like button on the show for me. Get subscribed to the channel so I can bring you the best damn betting content in the game week in and week out. And make sure you're following our special guest this week. I'm pointing the wrong direction because everything's backwards on camera. My guy, free UFC bet picks. And it is time. Oh, it is time, ladies and gentlemen.
You're not putting a tin. Oh, I was like, you're not putting on a tinfoil cap here.
No tinfoil hat needed, my friend. It is Patchy Mix Fight Week. And I, ladies and gentlemen, am your bantamweight king, okay? I may have gotten reverse swept last week. I may be having 2 straight years of losing betting in MMA, but there's one thing that I excel at. There's one thing that no peasant on any gambling site can even sniff my toes on, and that is betting the bantamweight division. My ROI in this division is stupid. I am so right on everything bantamweight. The only mistakes that have been making over the course of my career betting bantamweight was betting on TJ Dillashaw when he was hiding a shoulder injury that blew out in his fight against Aljamain Sterling, was believing too much in Umar at his first title opportunity. Frankly, I blame his corner for that loss, because if he hadn't chosen to try to grapple Merab in round 3, he wins round 3 striking. It's 3-0. That's a wrap, and he wins the title. I should have been right that night. Blame the corner. They suck. Everything else, your boy has absolutely nailed. I am the bantamweight king, and I've been waiting for this moment. I've been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Mario Bautista takes on Patchy No Love Mix. Those of you who have been around, those of you familiar with my game, know that, about a year ago, I made a video where I reorganized the top 5 of bantamweight. And I said that Patchy Mix was the number 1 bantamweight on planet Earth. And I stand by that, Aaron. I stand by that. I believe Patchy Mix is the best bantamweight walking the face of the planet right now. He trains with Merab. He's built like Sean O'Malley. He can strike with the best of them. He also has a nasty grappling game. The man can wrestle at an extremely high level. He has vicious submissions. This man is a finisher of the highest caliber. He is durable, and now that his striking is caught up, he is a dual threat. You cannot simply worry about his grappling and then think you're going to outstrike the man. He can outwork you on the feet, and he can finish you on the feet. He's a threat everywhere. And on top of that, he's got a crazy amount of experience. 20-1 at 31 years old. He is in his prime, and he's training with the current UFC champion on the daily. Now, the big thing most people are going to point at to poke a hole in Patchy Mix's game is the fact that he won a split decision over Magomed Magomedov in his last fight in the Bellator Championship Series. First and foremost, let's get something straight. Magomed Magomedov is 20-4, you guys. 20-4. He's a 33-year-old Dagestani. Like, this is a man who should be in the UFC and could be running stuff over here as well. His only losses, 2 of those 4, to Patchy Mix. The other one to Rufian Stotts, who, by the way, is a beast as well. And then Piotr Yan on the regional scenes. Like, this guy didn't have a non-notable loss. 2 of his 4 losses are to the man Patchy, who we're going to watch on Saturday. Okay? And the first time they fought, Patchy made quick work of him. Patchy submitted him like it was nothing. Now, everyone has a bad night at the office, okay? The second fight, Magomed Magomedov, frankly, made absolutely spectacular adjustments and made that fight much closer than it should have been. But at the end of the day, Patchy still got his hand raised. People are knocking my man for getting a close decision call and keeping the belt. Makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. That's what the best do. That's what champions do. He got his hand raised and he kept his belt. Now he's got a chance to finally come over to the UFC and prove what he's made of. Aaron, I know a lot of people watching got into the sport around the time Conor was taken off. So most people maybe don't remember when the UFC purchased a little organization called the WEC. And there was this big thing When the WEC fighters came over, they were completely disrespected. They were called little bro. Like they were treated like they were somehow less than the UFC fighters on the roster. Well, folks, what you may not know is some of the notable fighters from WEC were of the likes of Jose Aldo, Dominic Cruz, Uriah Faber, Cowboy Cerrone, Anthony Pettis. We have multiple championship fighters who got brought into the UFC and everyone said, take a back seat, bro, sit down. And they went, no, I'm taking your fucking belt. Like these guys, just because they were in WEC, were not a step down from the UFC fighters. At heavyweight, the UFC absolutely destroys PFL and Bellator at heavyweight. There's only so many giant men of that size that are good in the world, right? The UFC has the best of them. That's what it is. But when you get down to 145, 135, 125, there's a lot more humans out there. And just because they come from Bellator or the PFL at the lower weight class does not mean that they are worse or less. And I actually think that Bellator and PFL's 135-pound weight class would give the UFC's 135-pound weight class a run for their money. I wish we could do a head-to-head with that class specifically because of guys like Sergio Pettis, Rufian Stotts, Magomedov, Kyoji Horiguchi. Like, these are some of the greatest fighters on planet Earth, and a lot of people think of them as less because they're not in the UFC. Y'all are about to find out. Now, Mario Bautista, let's talk about him for just a couple of minutes here. 15-2, 31 years old, in his prime, fighting out of the MMA lab. This guy has really come around as a fighter. I'm not going to take anything away from Mario Bautista. He's doing what he needs to do. We all hate him for decisionating Jose Aldo, right? Everybody was bored out of their minds that night. Jose probably won the fight. Split decision, went to Mario Bautista. It is what it is. Winning against Ricky Simone in a fight where there was a mix of grappling and striking. Ricky Simone is a guy who's kind of hanging around the mid-level of this weight class these days. Someone we used to think was maybe a title challenger. We've kind of exposed the fact that he's not. You know, he snapped a 4-fight win streak in his last fight. Good on him. But he's not a title challenger. Like, Mario Bautista is still climbing his way into the contender circle, and his best win by a country mile is a Jose Aldo that was ready to hang it up, who is a known gas bag at elevation in round 3, couldn't bring home a 1-1 fight going into the third. Way past his prime. I'm sorry, that win doesn't mean a whole lot in 2025 to me. Okay? You look at the other guys on the record of Mario Bautista. Damon Blackshear is a good win, don't get me wrong. But when he can't grapple somebody, he's not going to be able to outstrike them until just recently. That was a couple years ago. Guido Canetti, terrible. Benito Lopez, terrible. Brian Boom Kelleher, love the guy, not in the UFC anymore. Jay Perrin, also not in the UFC anymore. This man got sparked out by Trevin Jones. Like, you want to compare resumes? Patchy Mix has a stronger competition level by far. I mean, it's not even close, okay? So he's got just as much experience. He's going to be the bigger man. He's fought the tougher opposition. Yes, I said that, and I'm not kidding about it. And Mario Bautista is notable defensively void. He's taken so many big shots. That's how Trevin Jones knocked him out. Like, he's been wobbled by Ricky Simone badly. He gets cracked in every single one of his fights, and it's a wonder Jose Aldo didn't put him away. I thought he was going to in the second round when he started landing on him. Patchy Mix is going to finish Mario Bautista, you guys. This is going to be competitive for about 3 minutes, all right? Mario Bautista is going to get rocked on the feet. He's going to shoot a double leg, and then Patchy Mix is going to darce the fuck out of him. It's going to be a club and sub victory. And my friend, this is max bet season. I got minus 175 on Patchy Mix. You guys know I've been anchoring lately. The anchor parlays have revolutionized the way the betting game works, okay? You're welcome. But this is not an anchor because this is a one and done. Give me my money. I don't want anybody else tainting my victory. 7 units to win 4 at minus 175. The 7-unit max bet record, which, by the way, you guys, 7 units is the most I will put on any one individual with a straight bet. So it is my max bet. 9-3. 9-3 since I started the podcast. Very rare are my max bets. Patchy Mix is max bet number 14. and we're looking to move to 10. I'm sorry, 13. We're looking to move to 10-3 this weekend. And I think he does it spectacularly. I think he does it by finish, and I think he does it early. Your bantamweight king has spoken. What do you make of this one, my man? What do you got here?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the other way. I'm just kidding.
Oh!
That's treason. That would be treason. Cannot go
Guards!
There's the double, you're on the 7 unit plus bantamweight. Patchy should be minus 1,000 here. And I'm only slightly kidding.
I actually think he should be like minus 250-ish. Like, that's, to be fair. Like, I told somebody today that my max bets are a combination of line value and personal delusion. So I think he should be minus 250, minus 300, something like that, in that ballpark, maybe. So I think there's still value at minus 175, minus 180, enough to play. But I'm not saying he's minus 1,000. He's not the lock of the century. Like, there is danger here. I just have faith.
No, I feel you. I'm on Patchy as well. I've been wanting him in the UFC forever. Everybody hates Mario Bautista because what he did, because of what he did to Jose. So I was considering, like, I love the emotional hedge. I never bet on my favorite teams. I never bet on the Packers. I was thinking I could be happy no matter what if I bet Mario here, right? And he has looked good. He's got 3 good wins in a row. But that Damon Blackshear win, Damon was on short notice. A lot of guys talk about, like, Damon's spotty cardio. Sometimes he has terrible cardio. Literally every time Damon has terrible cardio, it's because he fought like 1 week prior or 2 weeks prior. And that was the case here against Mario. He was coming off that twister win just 2 weeks prior, right? The Ricky Simone fight, Ricky gassed. Jose, Mario didn't do shit except cage control, and it was still a split. So I think this little hot streak that he's on looks a little better than it actually is. But Mario's decent, right? He's high-paced, mobile. He's a good banger, good volume, good power, well-rounded. He can land takedowns, but he'd be crazy to go for a takedown here because he'll get choked for sure. I love Patchy. The knees up the middle. He's so big for the division, so skilled, incredible front chokes, incredible back takes. The Magomedov, I think he's 1-1 against Petr Yan. Yeah, one of his losses was to Yan, but he beat Yan, I believe. So an absolute stud there. Rufian Stotts, stud. Sergio Pettis, stud. And Patchy's, just running through these guys. So, his last loss was in 2020 against Juan Archuleta. Decision loss. Really excited to see Patchy here. And I'll end with this. I'll see your WEC and I'll raise you a strike force. How many champions did we get out of strike force? Woodley, Lawler. I know Lawler had left and come back, but Dan Henderson didn't become a champ, but Dan Henderson was over there. DC, double champ, came from Strikeforce. I would say Ronda Rousey, but it's kind of unfair because UFC didn't have women, right? But I mean, this is a big time get here in Patchy Mix. PFL just holding these fighters ransom, not even giving them fights. Thank goodness Patchy got out of that mess. He's here. He's at the party. He showed up to the party. And he's ready to rage. So can't wait for this one.
I love it, dude. I cannot wait for this fight. When I did the video where I said Patchy Mix was the best fighter at this weight class on earth, I never really thought that theory would get tested. It's so you guys know I'm a content creator. I've talked about it at the beginning here, right? Like, I'm an entertainer. There was an aspect to that of, I can literally always fall back on, well, we'll never know. You know what I mean? We'll never actually be able to argue it, because I didn't think the PFL was going to be dumb enough to let a stud like Patchy Mix slip through their fingers. So I never thought he'd actually come over to the UFC, and it could always be a theoretical thing that I could talk about, like Ngannou and John Jones, right? But here we are. I'm extremely excited because I actually believe what I said. Like, again, it was twofold, right? Like, I actually believe it. And then also there was that safety net. Safety net's gone. Let's see if I'm right. I actually think I'm right, and we'll now get to test that theory. So I'm extremely excited for this fight. And the way Patchy Mix fights, he's just a violent fighter, you guys. Like, whether he wins or loses, whether I'm right or not, he's going to float around the top 15, and he will forever be in fun fights. So he's a wonderful addition no matter what happens. All right. Next fight up, we've got Vicente Luque taking on Kevin Holland. Another awesome fight here. Another violence fight here. This one's intriguing to me though, because Kevin Holland is a guy that we've always said never at chalk, right? Like ever since he kind of stuck his head up his own ass and he started taking all these fights left and right to whatever. He took fights for 2 straight years to buy a fleet of cars or some shit. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's he doing with the cash? Like, he just literally got in there every opportunity possible and just, it didn't matter. You get in there, you get tapped out in round 1, whatever. He's so good on the mic. He gets everyone engaged, and then he just lays down in the cage. Like, it's this thing that he does. So congratulations on all the piles of money, Kevin Holland. But he hasn't been serious about winning a fight until the Gunnar Nelson fight. He gave it his best effort, and they always throw him up against grapplers at 185. The Reiner de Ritter fight was just hysterical to me because people were like, oh, Max Bad Holland. It's like, no, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Like, he can't grapple, and at 185 against a world-class grappler, he's not winning that fight. So thank God Kevin Holland got his head out of his ass, and he's fighting at 170 again, where he belongs, where he has a reach advantage, where he has a height advantage, where he's got a physicality advantage, where his power, frankly, is at the higher end of this division. He's a problem at 170 pounds. When Kevin Holland takes his fight game seriously, when Kevin Holland gets his shit together, he is a fucking problem at 170 pounds. And they're giving him Vicente Luque. Luque, 23-10, 33 years old, all team violence. I know he's only 23, but he's another guy who's 42 in fight years because he's gone out there and just gone life and death with people. He has been busted up so badly in some of his recent fights. And we all know about like the brain trauma. That was a huge talking point, especially going into like the Jeff Neal, the RDA, the Joaquin Buckley fights, like everyone talking about his brain condition and stuff. And I think getting knocked out by guys like Joaquin Buckley and Jeff Neal, that can't possibly help. Right. So he gets a couple of mainstay grapplers. He's bigger. He's stronger. He bullies a guy like Rafael Dos Anjos. A lot of people missed out on that one because, again, they were worried about RDA being able to catch him with something, kind of forgetting that RDA is small at 170 pounds. And then Themba Gorimbo, who turns out to be a complete fraud. And Vicente Luque made short work of him on the ground. Now, the big thing I want to point out in this fight is Luque has an extremely clear advantage in this fight in one place. And that's the Darce choke. Kevin Holland lives and dies by the Darce choke. He hits it. He's been caught in it. It's a regular thing where guys that are bigger than him, they wrap his neck up. He can't get out of it. He's got a problem with his submission defense. For a jiu-jitsu black belt, he's got incredibly low submission defense. Vicente Luque is one of the nastiest submission specialists you've ever seen. And his Darce choke specifically is one of his all-time GOAT moves. Now, usually you've got to be in a weird scramble position. You've got to be shooting for a takedown, etc., those kinds of things to hit a Darce choke. I don't know that opportunity is going to present itself here in this fight because at 170, Kevin Holland is going to have such a height and reach advantage that Luque is going to have to be the one grappling. I do think that Luque's brain matter is still rolling around in his brain a little bit up there. I don't think he's quite the same man that he used to be. He cannot live and die by the sword the way that he used to. The durability has, in fact, been cracked, and I think it's a bit of a problem for him. And I think it will be until he decides to finally hang it up, unfortunately, because he was an absolute stud all-star, and he's just taken too much damage. But Kevin Holland is one of these guys that hits so freaking hard, and he knows how to twerk every single little bit of that length he's got on these guys. The punches come from angles that you're not expecting. And at 170, he can chuck takedowns. He can't at 185, but at 170, he can. I actually think Kevin Holland can sprawl and brawl on Vicente Luque these days. And I do think Vicente Luque might bite down on the mouthpiece when he gets a little frustrated. If he can't get the takedowns going, he might bite down and swing. And I think that'll be a very, very short night for him if he does. Kevin Holland is a guy I don't want to lay chalk on, but at 170, I'm more than happy to take the stab at it. He's minus, looks like some money has come in, minus 265. He was minus 225, minus 230, I think a little bit earlier today, actually. So a big move on Kevin Holland. I like him in this spot. I think Vicente Luque is exactly the kind of fighter that Kevin Holland can have big success against. I do just want to have that caveat that Vicente used a grappling game plan against Rafael Dos Anjos very successfully. Mm-hmm. And he just recently submitted someone like Themba Gorimbo. You've got to watch for those subs. If Kevin Holland minds his P's and Q's here, I think he wins by knockout. If he gets a little loosey-goosey, you got to listen to the interviews. You got to figure out where his mental state is at, because if he is just kind of rolling in on this one, then he could very easily end up getting subbed out. But I think Kevin Holland is embarrassed after his recent run, and I think he's back to taking his fight game a little more seriously. And if that's the case, he wins, and I think he wins by knockout. So for me, it's Kevin Holland.
Yeah, I'm really confident in Holland as well. I was trying to parlay him up like a week ago, but those parlays lost because of high ante. But I had him at like minus 160, and I'm heavy on him since yesterday. Glad to see, that people are agreeing. I'll mention the low kicks for Luque could be effective here as well. We've seen Holland really heavy on the front foot. Like Ponzi was battering his leg with the low kick, and Luque definitely has a nice low kick. But yeah, you mentioned it. He had a neck injury plus the brain hemorrhages, and even before that, he had some durability concerns, like getting knocked out, from bottom, and things like that. But at his best, Luque is awesome. High volume, technical, nimble, diverse, powerful. A lot of low kicks. About a quarter of his strikes are low kicks. Good knees up the middle. He's just an absolute stud. But yeah, I think Holland should just keep the range, use that length, put it on him. I think he's live to get a knockout here. We got to remember, we're talking about the guy, though, that took down Brendan Allen. We're talking about the guy that let up Stephen Wonderboy, right? And he could have won both those fights if not for those decisions. So it's hard to, I think, Kevin's very intelligent. Like, he's got a great technical mind for fighting. He's just a showman, right? That he's made some questionable decisions. So that always creeps into my mind here, but I think he's going to put on a masterclass. I thought, Gunnar Nelson was going to have a good chance to get a submission on him, but Kevin looked great there. If he's fighting at welterweight, he's tough to beat. I
think Kevin Holland and I could hang out. Both of our decision-making skills are so bad. Like, we would just get along great. Like, if Kevin Holland and I got together for like a single weekend, we'd end up on a boat somewhere with Stephon Diggs and pink cocaine with the host. Like, you could film us. We could do a buddy cop movie. I believe that.
Invite me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Automatic. We need the voice of reason. You'd be the one there to like rein it in, like right before we got arrested in Mexico. You'd be the one that would be like, all right, guys, cool it down.
Or I might be the one that's like, missing like on The Hangover. So
yes, we'd have to spend the rest of the time looking for you. That would be fantastic. I like it. Kevin, if you're listening, let's hang out, buddy. All right, guys. Next fight up, you've got Kelvin Gastelum taking on Joe Body Bags Pyfer, a fight that was rescheduled. Why? Because Joe Pyfer is a very smart man, and he understands that he needs to win this fight desperately with Kelvin Gastelum to avoid yet another fraud check on his record, and he also is aware that he doesn't have great cardio. So when they scheduled him at Elevation, he's like, oh, guys, I drank the Mexico water. I'm sick. I can't do it. I can't make it. So, yeah, he's definitely not fighting at Elevation. So they rescheduled the fight. They rebooked the fight. This one is pretty simple to me, you guys. Kelvin Gastelum, for as much as I love Team Fight Ready over there, he's been on kind of a downtrend. I actually ran into Kelvin Gastelum at a party a couple of weeks ago. Real cool guy. Yeah, very short, by the way. I'm much taller than Kelvin is. Getting subbed out by Sean Brady. I can't knock it too much. I thought he lost the fight against Chris Curtis, going life and death with D-Rod at this stage of his career. Bit of a problem, man. Bit of a problem. Kelvin doesn't hurt people anymore. And I think that's an issue. He's way too small. He's very much Kevin Holland up at 185 pounds, right? Like, this man has to find a way down a weight class if he's ever going to be a title challenger or be truly successful. At 185 pounds, he's always going to be this gatekeeper. He's got incredible durability. He's got incredible cardio, great pace. He's a phenomenal striker. Like, I actually really love Kelvin Gastelum's game. But Joe Pyfer is going to tower over him. He's going to be so much bigger. And we just saw what happens to Kelvin when he gets taken down by a big, strong body. There's a bit of an opportunity here for Pyfer to grapple if he wants to, the way that Sean Brady did. Obviously, I don't think Pyfer is anywhere near the skill level of Sean Brady, but I'm saying it's a path to victory. And then if they're on the feet, like, eventually, you guys, one of these dudes is gonna put Kelvin in a body bag, pun not intended. He's just too small. And Joe's whole thing is round one, smash, let me punch you in the face and put you down. He can do that to people at this weight class. Now, I think there's a crazy argument for Kelvin Gastelum by split decision. If Joe doesn't kill him in the first round and he slows down, Kelvin can put a pace on him, absolutely. But again, going life and death with D-Rod, Not my favorite look. Like if you're not backing D-Rod off with your shots, even a tired Joe Pyfer can probably withstand the offense coming your way, right? So it's going to be a volume thing. I just don't know if he's going to have enough volume to pull it off against a guy this big. I desperately do not want to have chalk prices on Joe Pyfer after what we saw, after the cardio dump, after being exposed at this level. Like, I don't think Joe Pyfer is the guy, man. I really don't. If you give him people who will line up in front of him and stand still for him to punch in the face, he'll take them out, no problem. But I think the higher he gets in the rankings, the more he's going to struggle unless he levels up in a big way. There's just something screaming at me that I want to pick Kelvin Gastelum by decision here, man. Watching a guy get fraud checked the way Joe Pyfer did against a skilled fighter with some footwork like Jack Hermanson, just leads me to believe that can be repeated. You know, his fight against Marc-Andre Barrios, a broken guy who's never sniffed the rankings in this weight class, knocking that guy out in round 1, that means nothing. That's a get back on the horse type of win. And then they're immediately throwing him into the fringe contender circle against one of the best gatekeepers in the class in Kelvin Gastelum. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'll say Joe Pyfer wins the fight simply because Kelvin is too small and the judges are going to look to rob him if they can. So I'll say Joe Pyfer by decision. But God, I could see Kelvin Gastelum running away with a 29-28 somehow here.
Yeah, I'm disappointed you mentioned Jack Hermanson because I was going to talk about that quite a bit. You know, he won because he had better cardio, sufficient durability, better technique. And Gastelum's got incredible boxing technique, very durable guy, decent cardio most of the time, sometimes really good cardio. So there's a lot of those ingredients that cost Pyfer his last loss, right? But in this 3-round fight, if that Jack Hermanson fight was 3 rounds, Pyfer wins it, and I wouldn't have lost a ton of parlays. Mm-hmm. That would have been great. So I think this 3-round nature does favor Pyfer. Mm-hmm. You know, I swept that UFC Mexico card, profited like 164 units that night, only 33 official, which was awesome. But then, you know, sweeping the entire card, profited 131. It would have been like 185 if that Pyfer leg didn't fall out. So Pyfer owes me $5K. But when he got the submission over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, he made me a mint 18.5 units because we were on the sub and the round 2 sub there. So I could lose Pyfer fights for a long time and still be up on him. But, you know, I think he broke it down really well. There are some concerns with him. But sorry to repeat myself. I think the 3-round nature makes him pretty safe here.
That's the big key for me, right?
Yeah, he's just
the 3-round fight makes such a difference here.
Just so big, like you said. I think he could indeed grapple. He recently got his brown belt. We've seen him do it before. I wouldn't think he'd get a submission like he did over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but if Kelvin landed something nice on him, you know, maybe he could stall out some time with some cage control or a takedown, right? So, yeah, I've got Pyfer parlayed up. I'm glad part of me is glad that he didn't fight and lose, to your point, right? Because then he would have cost me that sweep. But hey, Luque did it. Luque had to go number 2, and she still got the W. So come on, back up, Jeff.
Oh no, I love it. Yeah, I think it's Joe Pyfer. But you know, guys, there's a lot of these big favorites. Well, not a lot of, but these big favorites. There's several of them that I'm like, yeah, they're really probably the side, right? But there's a couple of them that are just so untrustworthy. I can't do it. Joe's that guy. Joe is that guy for me because I could really see him just getting completely outed here. Dirty Reg saying Jack got striking defense and was deflecting a lot of the shots Joe was throwing at him. Kelvin Gastelum won't affect them. Exactly. Yeah. Kelvin blocks punches with his chin. Terry, what's up, buddy? Saying I caught you live. You know, I've been rocking with you since 2020. Appreciate you. And you're welcome for the Brahim Mayash read. I'm so happy to hear that you hit that. Absolutely. Yeah. Ethan saying, give me Pyfer for 3 shots. Ethan, buddy. Okay, you know I'm trying to let you work your way back into this shot bet game here, right? You know that. I ain't giving you 3 shots on a guy like Joe Pyfer that I'm not even confident enough to put my money on. I would do 1 If you, I would take
And 3-1.
Quillan Gastelum for one shot, but you got to take the 3, man. I'm not laying that kind of chalk in a drinking game. If you want to give me 3-1, I'll do it with you on that one. But I have zero confidence in this. So this is straight up, in poker, when you have like a regular at the table that you've played with a bunch of times, and if you stack them 2 or 3 times in a row, you've taken so much of their money. There's like this ode, I need to give you action type of vibe where it's like, because we see each other all the time. We're cool. We're friendly. Like, I know I'm here to win money, but at the same time, I took a lot of yours. So you'll call kind of light once or twice, give them a chance to win a little bit of their money back. That's what I'm doing here. Like, if you want it that bad. Okay, Ethan says he's got a better one later. All right, you can save it then. All right, guys, co-main event. We've got Julianna Peña taking on Kayla Harrison. Women's MMA action here at its finest, frankly. This one for all the marbles, man. I've been a Julianna believer. I've been a Julianna Peña truther. In fact, I bet Julianna Peña both times when she fought Amanda Nunes recently. One aged a little bit better than the other did, but I actually did cash on the time that she finished Amanda Nunes, and that was incredible. Now, I want to talk about her last fight for a second because she fought my girl Rocky Pennington, and I was absolutely convinced that that was a brutal robbery. I had Rocky Pennington big that night, and I could not believe when the judges raised her hand and unanimously gave her that fight. I was stunned. I did have a little bit of bet goggles on that night. I will fully admit, going back and rewatching that fight, it was a lot closer than I gave it credit for. And so I have to fully fess up here for you guys that I raged that night online, but I think I was wrong, and it was a close fight, and you can absolutely make an argument for Julianna Peña. Do I think Raquel probably deserved to get the win? Yeah, I probably still do, but at the end of the day, it was close enough that you can't call it a robbery, and I just lost my money that night. Julianna has some of the most awful striking you'll ever see in your life. She is female Dricus du Plessis, though, because she is just so delusional in her own self-ability. She's got Anthony Smith levels of delusion. Like, she actually won the belt. She comes forward and she just swings with everything she's got, and she never quits. And you can knock her on her ass. It don't matter. She will get up and say, let's go again, bitch. Like, she just refuses to quit on herself. And frankly, that shit works. Like, the fact that she can break people like Amanda Nunes, like Rocky Pennington, those are the fighters who do the breaking. So that she's able to keep punching with those people and lands hard enough on their face that they've got to rethink their life choices. Like, she's not technical at all. But she refuses to quit. The junkyard dog in Julianna Peña is what attracts me to her from any type of a gambling perspective. And on top of that, she's actually a very strong grappler. So while she's sloppy and loopy and crazy on the feet, and it's almost embarrassing, she's a very, very good grappler. She's a very tough grappler. And you've got to give that to her. She's very slick. She knows what she's doing. She knows how to take the back. She knows how to get to dominant positions. Her submissions are solid. So give credit where it's due. Julianna Peña really is one of the best fighters in the world at this women's MMA weight class. And she's really only lost to the best. Now, the sub loss to Jermaine Durand, I mean, nobody saw that coming. It's a little bit of a fluky situation, right? But Valentina Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes are the only other 2 women to actually defeat her. So got to give credit where it's available. Now, Kayla Harrison. We all know about Kayla. You know, she was the PFL transplant. She came over here to really make a name for herself and finally take that GOAT status. And your boy has a futures ticket riding on Amanda Nunes to be champion at the end of 2025. And I couldn't be more excited about that plus 500. A lot of my futures bets are already dead and buried, but Patty the Batty and Amanda Nunes are keeping me above water right now if I could get 1 or 2 of those home. Because if Kayla wins this fight, you know, the very first thing she's doing is grabbing that microphone and telling Amanda Nunes to get her ass back in the cage. And that's a year-end type of card. As long as nobody gets hurt, that's a comeback, Christmas, Thanksgiving type of UFC pay-per-view bombshell, right? The GOAT coming out of retirement to really solidify who's the greatest of all time ever. They're not making us wait until 2026 for that one. So I've got a real shot at my Amanda Nunes to be championship future here. Kayla Harrison got a little exposed in her last fight for still not having it all together striking. Ketlen Vieira gave her the business when they were on the feet. And Vieira actually made her really struggle when it came to the takedowns, working for those offensive takedowns, keeping initially in round 1, she made it very, very hard on Kayla. Now, Kayla was able to adjust. She was able to work her way into range. She did fight her way to those takedowns, and then she dominated from there. Her wrestling, her judo, they're incredible. Her ground and pound is good when she can solidify dominant position, but someone like Ketlen, sorry, I've been saying Ketlen was able to kind of keep her at bay in those grappling positions and stay safe. And really, for the first time in a long time, we saw Kayla have to grind out a decision win. The one time I actually, again, this is just, you guys know how insane I am. I cashed a ticket back in the day in PFL when Larissa Pacheco defeated Kayla Harrison via decision. She was like a 6-1 underdog that night. I cashed that ticket. Julianna Peña reminds me a little bit of Larissa Pacheco. The way she never quits, the way she scrambles, with how strong she is. Like, both these women's strength is the grappling. And when you've got someone who can scramble jiu-jitsu style and you can't consolidate top time, that's where Kayla Harrison fights get sketchy. Julianna Peña has very bad striking, but it's effective, and she hits hard. Kayla Harrison is not the better striker. She's very stiff. She's very rigid. All that man muscle. She can't flow. And even though Julianna Peña is very, very weird, like, she'll land shots, and that'll be enough to back Kayla off. Man, I don't like this number. I've been saying it all night. I do not like this number. Kayla minus 625. Are you kidding me? Like, that's, in some other fights, it's questionable because the favorite isn't that good. In this fight, it's disrespectful because Julianna Peña is one of the best. Like, that is a big number against a seeded champion. I've told you guys before that I think it's disrespectful to make the seeded champion an underdog. Making the seeded champion a plus 500 is insanity. I do think Kayla Harrison's going to win this fight, but I think it looks a lot like her last fight. I think Julianna's live. I think Kayla struggles. And then I think Kayla eventually gets top time. Whether or not she gets a sub, I'm not sure, because that is the way that Julianna Peña has been caught in the past. Jermaine Durandamy caught a choke on her. Valentina Shevchenko got her with an armbar. So savvy submission artists have been able to tap her out before. But I kind of think that she makes this a bit tougher of a fight than people are expecting. I'll say Kayla gets the win. What's the sub number? What is the submission prop for Kayla Harrison on Saturday? Do we know? Let me pull this up. Kayla Harrison, there she is. By points is 2-1. By sub is plus 175. So back in the day on the PFL, they used to line them both at even money. It'd be like minus 120 sub, plus 100 KO. They'd make you flip a coin. They'd make you pick your poison. The fact that you're getting a little bit of meat on the bone here at least makes it more enticing to take the shot. It's not going to be the KO, guys. The KO, TKO is plus 300. She's not going to be able to hold down Peña enough to punch her enough to get the stoppage that way. It will either be a sub or a decision. So take a look at one of those. That's your coin to flip. You're at least getting plus 175, plus 200 on one of those plus sides. So it just comes down to which one you actually think it's going to be. For me, I'm thinking decision. So if I can turn a minus 700 favorite into a plus 200 dog by getting the correct method of victory, that's always a win, in my opinion. I might have a little piece of Kayla Harrison by decision at some point. But we'll see. We will see. Oh, wait a second. I am an idiot. This is a title fight. This is a 5-rounder. That changes things a little bit. I think I lean towards the sub. I'm sorry. I just had a complete brain fart. Of course, this is a 25-minute fight. I'm going to switch that. I'm going to lean more towards the sub in a 25-minute fight instead of the decision there. But you never know. This is a tough fight to call as far as the exact method, I feel. What do you make of this fight, man? Is it just Kayla all day? What are you doing?
I also think it's a wide line. I haven't been really touching Kayla even, in previous weeks when I'm looking for future parlay legs to include. I've stayed off Kayla. I do think she's going to get it done. I think she could tire. We know the weight cut is hard for her. She's done a good job. She's been making the weight problem-free, which was always a big question mark for everybody, right, as she was moving down in weight here. And she's been making the weight cut pretty comfortably, but those weight cuts are a tricky bitch, right? Like, sometimes they go great, sometimes they don't. And that seems to affect women even more so. Like, just sometimes they have a really tough weight cut. And so who knows, right? We know that Julianna is very gritty. I still lean the decision. As you pointed out, Kayla only went like 2 for 8, if I recall, against Ketlen. And we know Ketlin's strong, but I don't think the takedowns are going to come super easily.
And Julianna's not just going to accept.
Yeah.
Where Kelvin will lay on her back, Julianna will make her work. Julianna will scramble. She will not let her settle.
Yeah. On the feet, you know, I do think Julianna's got like the worst striking I've ever seen in my life. She looks like my dog swimming. It's just absolutely disgusting. I love the GIF if you've seen it. It's got like cartoon music, kind of like if somebody was slipping on ice and it's like a whistly, like whoop, 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 whoop.
Yep.
You know, she's chasing Amanda Nunes down with that, you know, slippery cartoon sound, and then bong, like the big cartoon. Amanda Nunes right hand drops her. I've watched it like 1,000 times, and I'll watch it 1,000 more. I can't stand listening to Peña. Can't stand looking at her. Can't stand watching her fight. One of my least favorite fighters in the world, in part because she got that absurd, sketchy win over an very injured Amanda Nunes. I don't often think that fights are fixed or anything, but I think if there was ever a fight where the sports books might have got to somebody, it might have been that one. Those were the good old days where they actually put out fights like months in advance, and people were parlaying up Amanda Nunes for absolute months. And Nunes got to that point. It was almost like a Mike Tyson level where once they lost, they actually made more money in their upcoming fights because the interest was renewed. People are tired of just seeing them steamroll everybody. It was actually like good for Nunes to lose that fight, and you know, without just absolutely accusing somebody of something. If I ever thought a fight was fixed, it was that one. Like, she got the choke. It wasn't even under the chin. It was an incredibly fast tap from Nunes. Just still makes me absolutely sick because I had just so much for months of just little sprinkle parlays that added up to be like 1,000 for months. And they all crashed and burned. And then Julianna gets to act like she's actually good. People say Bilal's the worst champion. I disagree. I think Julianna Peña's the worst champion the UFC has ever had. I really hope.
Worse than Nico Montano?
Well, that was a little different, right? She got the title just off of winning Ultimate Fighter, right?
So you're modern era champion then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
But yeah, I'm on Kayla, but I do agree it could be sketchy. I honestly think Peña might be a decent live betting spot after 1 or 2 rounds. She might be like plus 1,500 or something. If Kayla's able to get takedowns early, but then Kayla starts to tire out, I don't think she's going to finish her. So I think it's going all 25 minutes, and the round 4 and 5 could be pretty hairy. So I'm on Kayla decision. I think that plus 200, I might end up playing that. You know, we might get it at plus 240 or something on FanDuel when that comes out. They usually beat Bet Online by a little bit with those props. But almost, you know, back to my emotional hedge point, I definitely don't want to be too heavy on Kayla, because then if Peña wins, I'll be twice as sad.
For sure. That makes sense. And I understand what you're saying, man, that you can't stand her. You know, you can't stand listening to her on the microphone. She's a little cringy. But I mean, you can't stand looking at her though, man. I don't know about that one. I'm calling bullshit.
All right, well, this goes back to my system then. This goes back to my system.
That's fair.
Kayla's a lock.
Kayla is a lock because you cannot bet the pretty one. That is fair. Now, I will say, you guys, to the fixed fight thing, right? There's all kinds of politics and sketchy shit going on in MMA today. We know this. Peña's going to have to finish this fight to get her hand raised. No chance in hell do they bring over the GOAT, the PFL, the Amanda Nunes rematch. Like, those judges will get 10K under the table to make sure they're picking Kayla Harrison as the victor on Saturday. She is going to have to finish. And dare I say, like, could you just for just a moment, imagine with me that the scrambles start to get a little tough in round 2. Kayla's starting to breathe a little heavy in round 3. And then Julianna Peña is finding herself on top in round 4. I can't wait until DraftKings drops the round 3, 4, and 5 submission props. Just for a minute, just bask in this hot take with me. I'm not saying it's happening, but if we start looking at like 50 to 1s,
they will be. Oh, they'll be 50 to 1. You know,
Just saying.
Fight at this line, at this money line, they'll be 50-1 for sure. I would encourage you, perhaps, what about a Kayla decision, split decision, plus 1,400, and it'll be better on BetMGM and DraftKings when it comes out. Kayla by split.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think, at 14-1, that only needs to hit 1 in 15 times to break even. If they fight 15 times, I think Peña could get, one judge to give her a decision, right? Like, I think that 14
maybe.
plus 1,400 is plus EV.
Yeah. No, don't hate it. Don't hate it, man. No, I'm picking Kayla, you guys. I'm absolutely picking Kayla. Tough numbers, really rough. Absolutely. Hey, Mystic Wins in the chat asking, how do I lose so much? Pure determination, my friend.
That's my biggest fan. I think he's
pure determination.
I think he's talking to me. I haven't heard from Mystic in such a long time. But I still live rent-free in his head, and I'm up 244 units on my official Patreon bets. So
isn't it funny how that works?
Like these, a thick wallet.
The rent-free in the haters' heads. Like it's just funny to me. It's like fish in a barrel, man. Like I'm gonna be here next week. I don't care if I'm up, down, sideways. Like I will be here doing my show next week. Come on back. Thanks for the live views. Thanks for the interaction. Thanks for jumping in my chat. You're helping.
He loves you. I think he loves you. It's me.
He loves you.
Trolling.
Threesome.
He's
just saying.
Obsessed with me. He's obsessed with me.
All right, guys. Next up, we have your main event. That is right. Merab Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley. And if you excuse me, I have to switch back because this is none other than a bantamweight fight. And of course, as you guys know from earlier in the evening, I am your bantamweight king. I've been Team Merab since he got to the UFC, you guys. The people setting odds don't know what they're doing when it comes to Merab. He's been just printing money for us. Those of us, I talked about this way early in the show, just to bring it back around on Brinson Hiberio. If you get plus money on your boy and they just keep cashing, you just keep betting. We have never gotten off the Merab train, right? Because he's been plus 200-ish or better in a lot of these fights. Getting him to finish Marlon Moraes, like the one time he's ever finished anybody, incredible. Getting him at just short chalk against Jose Aldo, incredible. Getting him at plus 200 against Petr Yan, incredible. Getting him at plus money, any plus money, against Sean O'Malley, incredible. Now, I slipped up. I'm your bantamweight king, and I slipped up. I crowned Cousin Umar as the champion of this weight class. Just a little too early. He's the hottest prospect in the weight class. He is the future of this weight class. I've not swayed from that. Umar will hold gold at 135 pounds. But as I said before earlier in the show, he made one mistake. His corner told him to wrestle in round 3. He was winning the striking, you guys. He was up 2-0 on Merab in that fight. And if he had just kept doing what he was doing, stick and move, jab, stick your jab out there in his face, keep the distance, that's all he had to do for 5 more minutes. And then even if he gassed out like he did, and even if he gave up the wrestling like he did, he still wins 3-2, and it's a wrap. So I blame his corner. It all came down to his corner's game plan, robbing him of a victory that night, robbing him of getting gold wrapped around his waist. But at the end of the day, everybody else who cashed on Merab at plus 225, you guys made a phenomenal bet. And literally, I'm the guy who's told you that anytime you're getting that kind of a number on Merab, you take it. Because he's never plus 220 to anybody. He will always pay that price tag off. He is always better than plus 220. And I just love that everyone's come around on Merab. He's been such a fun guy his entire UFC run. Like his skill set aside, the fact that he's incredible, he's such a cool person. He's absolutely insane. He's bonkers. He's always hurting himself out there in the wilds, like diving into ice and shit. Like he's so fun. I love that the world of MMA has come around to loving Merab the same way that I have. Now, Sean O'Malley. I built my TikTok page on triggering Sean O'Malley fanboys. I've actually been a fan of Sugar Sean. I bet on him a couple of times, and I've done pretty well on Sugar Sean. But it was the easiest thing in the world to get views talking shit about Sean O'Malley because all the Gen Zers would just lose their freaking minds that you weren't on board with their God King, Sean O'Malley, and it was hysterical. He has really transformed himself from the Marlon Vera leg situation, I gave him shit about the Pedro Munoz, the no contest, the eye poke situation, because they treated him like he won that fight when all he did was finger bang the guy to death. We saw what happened when Bilal and Leon ran that back, right? Like, same thing, where like, just because you eye poked a guy does not mean that you want to fight, and I'll never give him a free pass for that one. The split decision with Petr Yan. That's the fight that I told you guys. So I jumped in live on that one, man. I got a live bet on Sean O'Malley in round 2 when he was facing Petr Yan. I think he was plus 300 at the time. And I told you guys, if the fight is close, Sean O'Malley is their golden boy. They will give him the decision. And in round 2, he started landing. In round 2, he started seeing success. In round 2, Petr Yan was not able to do the things that he initially was able to do to Sean O'Malley. And I said, I can see the tide turning now. It's close enough. The judges will do the rest. And I jumped in. It was a close competitive fight. Petr Yan probably should have won. But the UFC loves Sean O'Malley. He got the split decision. The rest is history. Now, we absolutely nuked Sean O'Malley with a max bet. Plus 200 and the KO prop when he fought Aljamain Sterling. I called the punch that he hit him with, you guys. Like, I've been on point with this guy forever. And then, of course, we max bet Merab when the time came for them to go ahead and fight. But there's some things that you guys need to understand about the weight class here. So the reason I'm king of bantamweight, the reason I hit all of these crazy, insane numbers on these guys is because the skill differential at bantamweight is closer than people give it credit for. They give you plus 200, plus 300 lines on these guys. And the reality is they're far closer to plus 115, minus 115. And so betting the dog has been incredibly profitable over time at bantamweight when they give you these crazy numbers at the upper end of the weight class. Again, when we're top 6, top 5, that's what we're talking about here, right? And now they've finally given Merab his flowers. They've finally woken up and said, okay, this guy's legit. Okay, he's really difficult to deal with. The first time they fought, Sean O'Malley was not ready for that fight. He had a hip injury going into that fight. He wasn't able to train as well as he probably should have. And he took it anyway because it was the Sphere. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fight in the Sphere. So he didn't pull out. He wasn't 100%. And what's happened since that fight is Sean O'Malley has dropped the sugar. You're not going to see the sugar show on Saturday. He's come out openly and said that he got a little high on his own steam. He got a little high on his own supply. He's dropped social media. He's dropped drugs, weed, all that kind of stuff. He's not having threesomes with Sneeko anymore. Like, he's like all in on his MMA career and getting his belt back. He brought in Demetrius Johnson, one of the greatest MMA minds we have ever seen, one of the best offensive wrestlers we've ever seen. He's training with DJ in solitude for this fight. He's taking this about as seriously as you possibly can in this fight. And while Merab has been absolutely incredible and he's going for his second title defense, he is doing exactly what Bilal Muhammad did leading up to his last fight. He's talking about striking. He's talking about going out there and striking this time with Sean O'Malley and grappling less. He is talking about trying to find a finish and knocking out Sean O'Malley to prove that he can be exciting as well. And that tells me a couple of things. One, tells me he's delusional, right? We believed Bilal. We should not have believed Bilal. I thought he was lying. I thought he was not actually going to go out there and try and kickbox with Jack Della. But he did. Fucking idiot. Drop the fight. It was 2-2 going into the 5th round. Could have been a much easier fight, but I lost a pile instead, right? Merab is also as insane as Bilal is and probably believes that he can strike with Sean O'Malley. You guys, he can't. Okay? O'Malley is going to be healthier. O'Malley is going to be able to handle the pace, the pressure, the takedowns better. And O'Malley is going to be improved with his takedown defense and his get-up game. If you guys go back and you rewatch the first fight, Sean O'Malley, towards the end of the fight, started having success. He was able to find the timing. He was able to find the distance. And Merab melts most people late. Sean had the cardio to stick with Merab and then have success deep in the fight. He was finding the step-in knee. He actually hurt Merab to the body with that stabbing front kick that he has. He was figuring it out the night of not 100%. You guys are absolutely not going to believe this. But Sean O'Malley is our link Memorial Dog of the Week. We are taking plus 250 on Sean O'Malley to come back and win his title back over Merab. Merab has been hurt in almost every single one of his fights, and people just have not been able to quite put him away. Sean O'Malley is training with the right people. He's taken the right amount of time off. He will be fully healthy coming into this fight. He will be buckled down for this fight. He will not be worried about the clicks. He will not be worried about the interviews for this fight. His entire life change leading up to this tells me that he's taking this seriously enough, and he has the skill set to actually pull this off. And on top of that, like we've talked about already before tonight, there's politics here. And if the UFC has a chance to wrap gold around Sugar Sean O'Malley's waist again, they will. If this is a close fight, which my boy Umar proved it very well could be by winning 3 rounds striking against Merab, they will give Sean O'Malley the belt. I'm sorry, but Merab's fairy tale run has come to an end. We are taking the plus 250, and we are doing it relatively confidently. Sean O'Malley is winning on Saturday.
I can't blame or disagree with the thoughts behind that, especially as the UFC is trying to negotiate a new deal. Pretty recently, in my opinion, they had like the most boring set of champions they've had in a long time. Multiple lay and pray guys. I like Pantoja, and he gets some finishes against like UFC newcomers, but like Kayla, but he's kind of a lay and pray guy. You got Merab. I love Valentina, and she just went out there and struck Manon. But in my mind recently, Valentina was kind of wrestling to a decision. I was there at the Sphere when Merab won and Valentina beat Grasso. The UFC was in a tough spot. Heavyweight division's a mess, a bunch of boring champions. I know they were just ecstatic that JDM came through, and they'd be ecstatic if O'Malley won. And when you mentioned previously on the last breakdown that, if this thing goes to decision, they're going to give it to Kayla, I was thinking the same thing applies for O'Malley, of course. And as you mentioned, according to Sean, he was severely hurt last fight. According to Sean, he's in a much more focused state of mind now. And according to Sean, he won the first matchup.
Well, I don't know if we'll go that far.
And Merab was being a little bit of a showman in that Umar fight, doing the airball kicks, and he was landing on Umar late in the fight once Umar was just absolutely gassed. So I could see a world where Merab's thinking that his striking's a little bit better than it really is. We all know Sean had him hurt bad with that body teep in round 5. Merab was running for his life, right? Those body shots, they're tricky. Like, it doesn't even take the hardest shot to hurt you, right? I mean, you could take 10 of them, and then the 11th one, your body just shuts down and crumples you. It's all about, getting that liver. And so, in a different universe, maybe that body teep absolutely just finishes Merab, right? Like, I do think that last fight was closer than some people remember, but not as close as Sean remembers it. Yes. I'm really heavy on the fight to start round 5 here because I think Merab wins, and obviously it'd be a decision. But I think, if you simulate this fight 1,000 times and you think, all right, how often does Merab get a finish in rounds 1 through 4? I think it's far less often than how often does Sean win a decision or a round 5 finish here. I think Sean could win a decision here. I don't think he's knockout or bust. I really need this fight to start round 5. And I think Merab takes it, but absolutely agree with everything you said. The UFC would love nothing more than to hear and new on both title fights here.
Absolutely. I think we're getting double and news this week. And your bantamweight king has spoken, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going to end up being close, and I kind of like the decision call as well. Now, don't get me wrong. I won't rule out a KO from Sean O'Malley because Merab has been hurt many, many times, right? We've seen it over and over and over again. He's been hurt. And Sean O'Malley, frankly, found those shots up the middle in the last fight that really caused him problems. I could see those being the nail in the coffin and him actually finding a KO here. But I think the decision is a sneaky underrated look where Merab is able to just kind of fight through it, find some grappling success, and Sean is able to better defend the grappling, not fully go down to his back, lots of cage clinching. Like, it ends up being a back and forth where the damage is just able to slightly overcome the offensive control time and the grappling. So Sean O'Malley by points plus 600 is kind of the hot take that I've got here on this one. I like your fight to start round 5 look. And I think you're appropriately respecting the underdog here in this fight. Shout out Crowds Keeper. Thank you again very much for the donation, my friend. M heavy on the foot, O'Malley oblique kick to the knee. And yeah, that's definitely a tool that absolutely could happen on this one. And Ethan, I am so sorry to break your little heart, my friend. I know when you challenged me to the shop bet on the main event, I knew that you were not going to be happy when I did my breakdown because I was packed up and ready to go. But we got to do it. At plus 250, the line is way too wide. At plus 250, we got to rock Sean O'Malley. Even if Merab does win this fight, you guys, I think it's going to be like a 3-2 type of fight. It would be a very close, competitive fight. It is not going to be something where he gets blown out this time around. We are going to see 100% Sean O'Malley, and that makes a huge difference to me. Him shutting down his socials, him quitting the drugs, the things that take him away from MMA, and then him being fully healthy. I think we see a completely different fight. You guys know I've talked to you about this, that when fights get run back, everyone has recency bias in their brains, and they can't think of another outcome besides what they just saw. The only thing they can recall is what just happened. They expect the fight to go the exact same. And I'm telling you, more often than not, that's not how it goes. More often than not, especially at the high level, these fighters make adjustments and we see a different fight. Sean O'Malley is going to come out with a different game plan. Merab is going to try to anticipate adjustments that the O'Malley can't make, and he's going to try and do different things as well. That's going to lead us to a very, very different outcome. And especially if Merab is trying to strike with this man, this is going to be a very different fight. Shout out my guy Liam, picks fights. Love to hear it, buddy. Let's go dog hunting this weekend, my friend. Willie, my friend, saying made it. I apologize. You made it just in time for us to close the show. You guys, this is an epic card. We have gone almost 3 hours, which is absolutely insane. No breakdown show should go that long. People are going to have a hard time listening to this one back. I will get timestamps up for you as quickly as I can so we can chop that down to whatever individual fight that you're interested in going for. The real ones who have been hanging with us since the beginning for the entire 3-hour runtime, though, and of course, those of you tuning in and watching the replay and watching through the entire thing or listening on audio for the rest of the way. Appreciate the hell out of each and every one of you. You guys are incredible. Without your love and support, we wouldn't do what we do. So thank you guys very much for being here. My friend, now is your moment. If you've got content, which I know you do, and you've got stuff that people can consume, where can they find you? How can they support you? What have you got coming up in the future?
Appreciate you inviting me on. It's always a blast, and I learn a ton, and this flew by. It didn't feel like 3 hours.
Right.
You know, we had a blast. So
my phone's blowing up. The wife is bugging me because we've been on here so long, and I'm like, how is it 2 hours and 45 minutes? Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. No, it was a blast. Follow me on Instagram for UFC bet picks. We put out most content there. I need to be more active on Twitter and actually post stuff on there. But we make the fight cards so you can make your picks on it. Lots of work goes into the graphic design and stuff on there. And my picks are goated. Hate to keep my horn. I mentioned that Clint got the gold medal for last year. I got the silver medal. We've been doing the expert graphic for 3 years, like 3.5 now. I've got 3 rubies this year. I've been the top expert of the week 3 times, including UFC Mexico, where I swept, and looking to get another sweep here pretty soon because I'm just itching for one. I'm like, Dave Chappelle, y'all got any more of those sweeps? Like, all I can think about is a sweep. It's almost like stressing me out because every fight I just overanalyze and yeah, pretty good picks, pretty good bets, but mostly I try to keep it positive and spread some love. So I'm a good follow on Instagram.
That's what's up. You guys make sure you go ahead and support the man. Max bet on Patchy Mix this week, betting Sean O'Malley before that line drops any further because it looks like money is coming in that side already as we speak. And I will be having action on Serghei Spivac. That's where I'm at for now. That's where I'm at going into these fights. I don't know how much else I'm going to do because, as we talked about, some very untrustworthy, very large favorites here on this card. We'll have to look at the prop market, but you're welcome. I actually do a prop show these days. So come on back because we will have the total takedown. We will have Clint's hot props. And then, of course, we will have the undefeated post-weigh-in show on Friday. And I will hook you guys up with the Sharp Action Report. Our boy joining us, Andrew, from Superbook Sports. Get subscribed if you haven't. Hit the like button on your way out the door. And just remember, you guys, we're all battling it out in the trenches right now. Everybody's going through some shit. Everybody's got some tough times. And every once in a while, you'll get just an absolute dickwad. You know, one of these people like Mystic in the chat, who's just a complete hater and has absolutely no respect for human decency. And you've got to just make sure that you let those people roll the fuck off. Okay. There's a couple of you who've supported me for years and years and years, and I love you guys for that. You're the opinions who I value. I've got my wife and my daughter that think the world of me. I go to work every day to put food on the table for them. Their opinions matter. I can't stress enough to you guys how much happier you're going to be when you block out the noise. Those people that just want to watch the world burn, those people who just want to take one moment of your peace to make themselves feel better, the second you stop letting them get to you, the second that you cut them out of your life, no matter how close they should be, if someone is taking your peace from you, they do not deserve your time. They do not deserve your effort. They do not deserve your energy. Protect yourself, protect your mind, protect your heart, protect your peace. You're going to be a whole lot better off for it. And when you start doing that, you'll find the people who really care about you, because the people who really care about you won't bring you down. They're going to lift you up. And that's why I love my chat so much, because you guys, short of the one or two dickheads that roll in here every once in a while, you guys are the best people out there, and you do nothing but lift me up, which is why after 2 straight years of losing on betting MMA, I can roll back here every single Monday with a smile on my face, knowing I get to hang out with you guys for a couple of hours on Mondays. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart for everything you've done for me. And let's keep this going. Let's get on track. Let's actually win a little bit of money this week. My friend, thank you so much for joining me for such a long show. Thank you all for being here. And one last time, please, just hit the like button on your way out the door. Let's roll, you guys.